You think the fence is
Oh, they're not too-
mislocated?
No, I think they're not,
We are recording.
All right.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have you heard from Doug?
Not.
All right, so Tony, so this is technically a continuation of the meeting of last first. And we're gonna go ahead and start, well, we're gonna go ahead and have roll call. In attendance, we have Carol, Ed, Bob, myself, and then as of now, we have Doug is absent. So we'll go ahead and we'll start with,
He just joined online.
okay, so I need a motion.
Motion for allowing Mr. Banks to fully participate in the meeting remotely due to exceptional circumstances.
I'll second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Can you hear us, Doug?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So we'll go ahead and we'll start with Russ.
First of all, for the record, Russ Wire, Real Estate Econometrics, your assessment methodology consultant, and thank you for accommodating me. I was a little bit late, but I did make my meeting last Thursday, so I appreciate that. What we're going to do is go through, this is the second part. As you know, we're doing this in 3 stages. The first part, we did the water management, which we concluded last week. Second part is going to be the roadway benefit that we're going to talk about today. And then the third part, which will be next week in the workshop, will be Parks and Rec and administration. So hopefully we'll have all of those covered by that point. And then I'll go back into the work part to get that draft out by near the end of January. But that's the goal. That's where we're going. So
that first meeting in February, we will have a workshop first.
You mean
Yes, we
January?
always have a meeting,
No.
a workshop, the first meeting.
December, what's the next, December 5th?
January?
Yes.
January?
No,
Oh, December 5th?
Yes.
this is November.
Yes.
We have a meeting in December, right?
Yes,
The first-
that's a
Parks and
workshop.
Rec and admin, yes, that is the next one for the workshop on
Okay,
December 5th.
and that'll be a workshop.
Yes, for the
Okay.
workshop at 2 o'clock on December 5th.
You
Correct.
heard it here first, Russ.
Thank you.
Okay.
I will make sure I'm here at 2 o'clock.
Okay, and while we're on it, I remember that we canceled the meeting of the 19th
Yes,
a while ago. So that would be the next meeting after that will be on the 2nd,
yes,
and that will be a workshop also?
yes.
Okay.
It'll be the draft. No,
Can
I
we not only have
No, I had
this?
like the third week in January, third week in January is when
that was our fallback in the event you had any additional follow-up.
December's was.
Okay.
Yeah, or in the early part of January, that's correct. We had like 3 dates in there if you saw my calendar.
So you say
Can
the second.
we not only have a workshop at the next meeting, but also an agenda item in case there's something we want to hear comments from the public on also?
It will be on at 3 o'clock.
Right, but I'm asking that we also make it an agenda item on
So then
the
it wouldn't,
3 o'clock meeting. No, the workshop for us to talk.
okay,
And then if people have comments or want to say anything or want to add to the discussion, we could do that during the course of the meeting if there's an agenda item on the agenda for it.
well, they can speak
They can
on it without being an agenda item.
At the
Unless
meeting.
unless you do want a specific topic on the agenda, then that's
Yes.
different. Okay, so then you just have to let us know, let Chelsea know, but they can speak regardless on whatever topic they want.
Okay, can we have it as an agenda item also at the 3 o'clock meeting?
Just a general assessment methodology, yes.
Okay, so the second meeting in January is the one where you're bringing what appears to be a pre-final document?
That's the draft, correct.
The draft.
That's where we can say, here's what I heard and everything, and now it's all
Okay.
put together, and here's how the assessments spill out from that.
Okay.
And that's when we do our heavy-duty discussion and playing with.
Carol, just so I'm clear, you're asking for that on December 5th.
Yes.
The agenda will be out tomorrow.
Is there anybody that's not going to be here for January 2nd? Because I don't think I'll be back.
I will be here.
I'll be here.
I'll be here.
Doug?
Doug, will you be here January 2nd?
Yes, as far as I know.
Thought we lost him.
Okay, so let's go ahead and start with.
Oh, good, go. Okay. Today's agenda will
Bob,
be,
would you prefer that we hold off one more meeting then until you come back in January?
I would appreciate it.
Oh,
We're not doing anything in
We're not doing
January 2nd
anything.
relative to this, though.
correct.
So there's no issue here on that.
But to hear his presentation.
He's not. gonna
That's
have it
next
on the
week.
2nd. It's on the 16th.
I
Second
thought there
meeting.
were four.
No.
Three.
There are three, because we did water management, we're doing roadways today, and then next week will be both the Parks and Rec and
And
administration.
yeah.
Those are all in next week's presentation.
So we're done with all the meetings, pre-meetings at the December 2nd meeting.
So
And
you
then-
weren't planning on presenting anything on January 2nd?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, because if
I
you looked
guess
at, if you looked at the calendar,
I
that's,
missed that.
no, that's what it said on the calendar. And then I needed a little bit of time to put it all together, because we're doing a piecemeal, but then I need to put the whole thing together,
Okay.
which will be the third week in January.
16th.
Yeah, on the 16th.
Okay.
That will be the draft, and then we'll all go through that, and then we'll set up the public hearings. I think is how
Good.
that goes.
Okay.
All right. All right. Today's agenda, we're going to look at the roadway benefit, the background on that, take a look at the budgets. We're also going to take a look at the benefit determination measurements, and then the calculation of the assessments. And just like in the last workshop that we had, I have questions at the end that we're not sure how the board wants to go, and that's all up to the board and the board discussion. So let's go to number 3. Perfect. In the background, Gateway Service, the CDD, we're revising the master methodology, operations and maintenance. The district's reviewing the methodology by the benefiting categories through these workshops. Today's workshop is on the roadways. And the district roadway ownership was verified by the district engineer, as was the use of the Institute of Traffic Engineers measuring of the trip generation. That seems to be the Bible.
Russ, can you hold on for 1 minute? I'm having trouble getting this thing up on my computer.
Oh, sure.
I think we're having the same issue.
The 11A. That's how I got there, right? Oh, thank you.
That's what happens when George takes the day off, and I and Liz need to do it. Sorry.
Aye.
I can see it. It's right there.
I know.
So again, everybody ready to go? Bob?
Yes.
set to
Yeah,
go?
yeah.
Perfect, okay. The district road ownership was verified by the district engineers, as we talked, and we'll see in the next slide in a second. And then passed by rates for the ITE trip generation handbook, the 11th edition. And they update that probably every couple of years. When we started out, it was like in the 8th edition, but now what they do is they get more and more studies and more refines their data. So we try and use the most current data that's available.
So the 11th edition is how old?
Little over a year, September a year or so ago. So, and what we will do going forward as the methodology, as it becomes adopted, we will refine that every year. If we get new data, we put it into the workbook.
Did
So-
you see any major difference between 11 and 9?
No.
I didn't see hardly anything.
No, I know. Generally, it's not. Sometimes you'll see like single families gone from, I've seen it go from 9.2. And I was looking at the book here, it was 9.7 back in 2000 or 1994. I'm sorry. It was 9, I'm sorry. Thanks, Tony. I saw that scoring over there. Wait a minute, get the right date. Anyway, it was back then. So it's right now it's about 9.7. So it's back to where it was before based on what they've done. So it doesn't change very much, but it's like a real fine tuning. And every once in a while, they will have new categories like we're going to show in this presentation where they didn't have age restricted communities. They didn't have a designation for that. So they do now. So we try and keep that up as much as possible. because it's very good. They use that Bible is used by most traffic engineers when developers are going in for entitlements to, when they submit for getting land use changes. And that is their Bible for traffic studies. Anyway, that was used for the determining the, say, aided in the roadway benefit determination. Next slide, please. Okay, this was what the traffic, or not the traffic, this is what our engineer has come up with. This is the map that shows you all the roads that are owned by the district. And the roads owned by the district are in brown. Kind of a little hard to see there, but can you see them on your screens? Those are all the roads that are owned by the district. The blue roads are owned by Lee County. So that gives you an idea of ownerships within the district. And then the ones that aren't indicated are privately owned within the HOAs and those good things. Next slide, please. Roadway budget. The budget is divided into 3 sections. We have the gateway sections, which is GF001, the Pelican Preserve section, which is GF002, and the Stony Brook section, GF004. And I'm going to go a little bit into the Pelican Preserve one because originally, or I should say originally, what we've been doing is it's a part of that budget that you all receive, and it fell under inside the gate, outside the gate, that sort of thing. And it was done under administration, but I separated it out so that you get an idea of what you're paying for strictly for your roadways based on the silos. So, and you'll see that when I get to that particular slide. First slide though, next one after this is GF001. This is the Gateway roadway budget. And again, it has payroll, salaries in it. That may be changing when we start talking about administration and how those costs are. Those may be reallocated. We've been discussing that. But you can see it's tree trimming services, landscape mulch, contractual service, which is landscaping, plant replacement. A lot of that is, this is the landscape side of the budget. And then if you, next page is actually the.
Before you go on,
Yes, sir.
we had conversation that currently we operate under 3 silos: admin, waterway, roads.
Correct.
Yeah, and I had asked if there was anything improper about doing it in 4 silos: admin, administration, roadway, and landscape. And I think I heard we're not doing it that way, but we could do it that way.
That is correct. And we can talk about that as we're getting into those processes. And actually, there's going to be a 5th one with Parks and Rec.
Okay, and I'm okay with that one too. I'm okay with 5. But I want to keep in mind that we're not locked into this. This is a methodology. We may have some others to consider. Please go on.
Okay.
Well, your problem, as I understand with that, is that if roadway is trip generation related, why would you want to do trip generation related on anything other than roadway, or be effective on anything other than roadway, like any admin costs? Why would you want to do that?
You mean in terms of why would, well, because.
In other words, if you don't separate roadway out and have roadway based upon trip generation information, which is generally accepted.
Correct.
And you blended it with admin, now what's going to prevail?
Well, we're not blending with admin. What we're doing is what we're trying to do is take all the payroll for all of them.
I understand that, but what I think Bob was saying was that's not in stone.
Have as pure as we can get them.
That
right?
it could be remain as is, where it's
Sure.
in with admin.
Sure.
My question is, if you do that, how do you justify the split if it's not trip generation?
Well, so what you're saying is if let's say we separate and we put the landscaping into another silo, is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm saying eliminate, like where we have a or we have a roadway, a stormwater management, and an admin, and a parks and rec. What I thought Bob was saying is keep an open that instead of having a roadway over there, they keep roadway blended with admin.
No, and I think.
No. I want to have independent silos.
Yeah.
We have admin, that's admin. We
Okay.
have roadway, that's roadway. We
Okay.
have landscaping, and we have.
Okay.
Parks and
now
Rec
we'll put the
and
parks
Okay,
there.
okay,
Yeah, so what he was doing was separating the landscaping from the roadway.
okay, gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
The only
Which
reason
is-
it's there now is because we only had 3. Had to put it
Which is
somewhere.
what you've got right now for Gateway, because the very first one, the 1,431,000, that is the landscaping component, period.
correct, and that's a part of the roadway what I call the
Currently.
roadway budget or in the roadway silo.
Right.
Because it's in the roadways, that's where
Yeah,
it's
okay.
located. Now, it does adjust, Bob, as I have taken a look at it, and we will talk about it in the near future. If you take it out, then how do you measure the landscaping? You measure the landscaping and everybody gets a 1, then all of a sudden you're dividing the landscaping by the number of units, not the trip generation. So people with lower trip generation, it's going to be higher for them. So anyway,
It's a big difference.
there is a big difference.
And it's a big difference because it's a big number in both Pelican and Gateway.
Correct. So anyway, I just want you to be aware, if we do separate it out,
Just want to understand what the options are.
and right, and I agree.
Okay.
That's a
Okay,
possibility. The
so-
first thing,
What would be the link or the benefit or whatever between roads and landscape?
well, the link is that all the landscaping is in the roadways. And if you're driving by it twice as much as a lower trip generation unit, you're getting twice the benefit.
That's the issue.
That's,
If we had huge areas that were landscape related, that were not road related, it would be an issue.
correct.
But it's not. All of our landscaping is, for all practical purposes, 95% roadway related.
And if you had landscaping inside Parks and Rec, that would be put inside Parks and Rec, and we would measure it based on your Park and Rec benefit, you see. So the.
So it's really separating everything, really.
You are separating things, but to some degree, like you say, the landscaping is all in the roadways that you're maintaining. However, the, looking at it and measuring it that way is probably, in terms of measuring the benefit, is the best way to go. I mean, it's the easier way to measure it. So like I said, if you had something, you had landscape, or you had something, if you wanted to put everything that was landscaping outside of that, you could put it into its own silo and measure it on an equal basis for everybody. But the roadway is where the landscaping is. That's why that was the best measurement. So we included all of that together. And to be honest with you, I do a lot of methodologies, not just this one. And for my own districts, I do a lot of methodologies, and every one of them, the landscaping is with the roadway.
Is what?
Is with the roadway.
That's pretty common.
Ed, part of this may come down to whether the existing areas for landscaping that Pelican has been maintaining, also called shared areas, if they stay within Pelican, inside the gate, outside the gate, I have no issue. If they move, then I might have an issue. So if the Pelican bubble stays the way it is, and inside the gate and outside the gate are still the Pelican landscaping responsibilities that we've historically had, then I'm okay.
Well, some of those, if there was a split that was done between inside the gate and outside the gate. And when that was done, I mean, there was a lot of elements when we put the first one together. But what we did then said inside the gate was strictly benefiting inside the gate people. And the people outside the gate were not paying for that. Everybody paid for everything outside of the gate, is how that methodology worked. in the
And I don't
past.
say we change that. I just want to
I
pursue it
understand.
as we go through,
As we go
discuss.
through it, right.
It's almost like you need an 007 account.
And 008 and
Or an
09.
008 or an
No.
009. yeah.
No, but.
I don't think you need, I just don't want to see a huge portion carved out that has historically been within the Pelican wherewithal and budget and maintenance, and have that taken away.
Yeah, I was trying to make the comparison of the people outside the gate at Pelican.
Right.
Would not have a participation on the inside of the gate.
Correct.
relative to-
Correct.
And vice
That's why we keep them separate. That's
And,
right.
and Mr. Gephardt, if you recall, when we went through the methodology before, there's two parts to the methodology. One is looking at the budget and putting them in the proper silo for
Yes.
benefit measurement, and the second part is the benefit measurement. Now, if we don't really need an 007 or 008 because it's all in 001, but if you noticed on your slide, you'll see there for version 5, which was this fiscal year budget, you see all the budgeted numbers that you had adopted. And then in the budget category, what I do is in that budget page, I put down, well, that's a road cost, and that's a landscape cost or part of the roads, and that's a water management cost. So, and then I have all the silos across, and they fall right into those categories. So I get a total for all.
And right now, we haven't seen that. I haven't seen that type of a split.
We haven't, well, that's for the Gateway one. For Pelican Preserve, as you see, when I get into
Okay.
this a little bit, I did do that. So gave you an idea is what inside the gate you're
Okay.
paying on a per unit basis for your roadway and landscape costs. That was done separately, just so you had an idea, because it was all lumped into one thing. And I think if you wanted to see a true benefit, what I did in that case, which I will get to, I said, okay, everybody has the same trip generation in Pelican Reserve because they're inside of the gate and it's a age-restricted community. So I had all the units, no matter what type of unit they were in there, it was a 4.4, I think it was. And then I did the golf course, which was based on 18 holes. There were 30 trips. Yeah, and that was different. And ironically, even though if you threw everything that were in the roads in administration, the only difference was the golf course was paying a little bit less because the trip generation was a little bit less than their admin cost. But it was close.
And I recall it.
Yeah, and it was close.
And then we looked at the difference between the Pelican Golf Course and the Gateway Greens, and that's something else.
Ultimately, which we
talk
will, yeah.
Right.
which we will-
So the way you took and split the Pelican Preserve is basically the same components of costs that were associated with roads on 001 you did on 002.
Inside the gate, yes. Yes, and I went through the budget line item, because you had it broken out by line item in there, but what the costs were. So anyway, that's the Gateway Road budget and kind of the Pelican Reserve Road budget. If you go on this one's Public Works. Yeah, Public Works. Again, it's, you can see down here below, maintenance and repairs for street lights, you have electricity for street lights, street sweeping, that's all roadway related. So those two combined, the other part I did is we have a reserve, part of the capital program, you have a reserve. And what I did as opposed, because it really wasn't identified in the budget, what I did was I split the reserve among the silos based on the silos percent of the total. So you'll have three numbers in there. You have roadways, you have water management, and you have administration. So if you add those three up, each one was $3,300, 33, it comes out to 10,000. So each one was 33% of that total budget. So I took the reserve part, multiplied it by 33%, that went into the roadways, 33% went into water management, whatever that percentage was. It wasn't equal, but I took the capital, so that's a part of that budget as well. So that was the easiest way to, unless they went into detail and I had a complete, here's what we're going to do with that. So anyway, that's what we did on the roadway budget. So you go to the next one.
Okay, before you leave that, what made up the 2,144,000? Is that the first page in this? Total by category.
Oh, the 2,144,000?
That's the 1,431 plus 595 plus 117.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
I missed
it's-
I missed the
that tax
595. Screen's too small. Now I got it. Okay.
Yes, it's all three of those.
Got it.
Okay. Okay, next is the Pelican Preserve roadway budget. So this is where we get into what it is. I went in, you had the same line items as you did at Gateway. So I did the same, took a look at, there's the roads and there's the landscaping. And in total, it's $1.9 million between the safe. Oh, by the way, in the safety and security category over at Pelican Preserve, I took out the security, your contract for security services, and I took out the guardhouse and all of that. This is strictly the roads inside,
Yep.
just like they do here. Just wanted all of you to understand that.
Roads
Where did you
and
put the other admin?
I'm sorry?
Where did you put the residue in admin? If you took the.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah, because everybody in
but what you're saying is roadway and landscape.
roadway and landscaping together
Right.
was
Only.
measured by the
Yes.
roads.
Yes.
But not the.
Not the
gatehouse.
security aspect.
No, because the security aspect went over, fell over.
I'm
in-
okay.
I know, I'm just
agree.
I'm explaining to them because you and I
Okay.
spent a little time going through this one. But it fell over into the admin category because everybody benefits equally from the
So
security.
I assume when we get to 004, you did the same thing there. Stony Brook,
Stony Brook.
I have not got into the Stony Brook. I haven't done that one yet.
because as I say, just to be consistent, if
I-
we're pulling that out, we need to pull it out over there
Yeah, and it'll be the same thing. It'll be equal among everybody in there. I mean, because that's,
on the security.
On everyone.
and-
Okay.
yeah, I'm talking about 001.
Oh, four.
You're talking about
But
004.
we're talking about 004.
Yeah, but in 004, it's going to be, I will pull out secure, but it's going to be, that's going to be spread equally
So
among
it's not
everybody.
going to be road related. That's the issue. It'll be an admin.
It could be, or it could be road related, just if you want to be consistent, it could be road related and everybody in there gets the same trip generation. So
But I mean-
it's
but I
like,
mean, here on 002, you pulled it out and separated it to take it to admin. To be consistent, if we would do 004, we would do the same thing.
We'll mirror that.
Oh, correct.
Okay.
It'll be mirrored.
Mirrored.
But it will be on trip generations. You see, when I get into how I did Pelican Reserve, the reason we had to do that at Pelican Reserve is because we had a golf course there. And that also was generating trips and not at the same amount of trips as a residential unit in there. You see, so that you'll see what I mean. See, in Stony Brook, there's no golf course. So theoretically, it's like admin. It's all going to be spread equally among everybody. But I'll do it that way when I do the final book, because I'll say they generate, they're what, 7.5 or 7.7, whatever it is, times the number of units, and 100% in each unit gets that percentage of that. That would be as if you gave them all a 1, be the same thing. So to be consistent, I will do that for the roads, so you understand how they get to theirs.
So 2 years ago, Pelican repaired its first road,
Mhm.
Avila, and I think it was about 200,000. Then last year, they did 2 or 3, I forget, 2 other roads. They have a matrix as to
Yeah.
what shape they're in and all that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
Where does that road repair fit in here?
Yeah,
Should be on
under the
next-
capital
Roadway
side.
should be the
restoration?
next-
Yes.
Should be the next.
It's the capital roadway restoration.
Okay, so this would be, I think they're planning on doing 3 roads this year.
It's
So that's it?
That's in there.
And it's still in the same place.
And it's done the same way. I mean, that's a part of that. Each home in there is based on 4.4, and then the golf course has 900 and some odd trips. And they get their percentage of that road restoration, as do you, because of the number of trips impact how the roads are taken care of. Okay?
Mhm.
Okay, next slide, please.
Go back and
Oh, I'm sorry.
throw a monkey wrench in this.
Oh,
Stony Brook. How do we handle the Stony Brook outside the gate
in terms of the roads?
in terms of payment calculations, assessment methodology?
Well,
Because they have nothing to do whatsoever with the roads, much like C5 has at Pelican.
Mhm.
They're outside the community.
Mhm.
Why would they be paying anything for roads inside Pelican
They pay into the
or
001.
Stony Brook?
They pay into the 001, which pays for the maintenance of.
So they're
Gateway
not
Boulevard.
calculated whatsoever in Stony Brook,
So
even
only-
though they're
only-
called Stony Brook.
Only inside the
Okay.
gate.
Only
Okay.
inside the gate.
yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they don't have any commercial
That
areas
sounded
up
awful
there
simple.
also.
It-
And
it's-
and they don't have commercial areas.
No.
It's Stony
Correct.
Brook, whereas that's part of ours. And although we have C4 today, or C5, whatever it is, we're going to have 2 more sometime in the future. That'll be considered the same as the current C5.
I'm sorry, Cotton.
It's okay.
It's something in
I
my
said,
ear.
they don't have the commercial areas that Stony Brook
Yeah.
doesn't.
So
And then we're still undeveloped, we in Pelican
I
outside the
just
gate.
didn't realize that Stony Brook outside the gate was in 001, not in 004. So they're taking just the 777 inside the gate in the 004. Okay, right, good.
And I take 777 times 7.2
Gotcha.
or 9 point whatever it is. I
Okay.
mean, just to be consistent, we'll do it that way.
Okay. Good.
Normally it would fall under admin, which is 1-to-1 across the unit, so. That makes sense? Okay. Next is the roadway measurement calculations. All the land parcels within the district have a designated use based on the DOR code that's assigned by the property appraiser. So I have to go by that designation. And if somebody wants to challenge that designation, they need to go to the property appraiser to change that. That's not our, if I say, well, I don't think that's really a single
You
family.
use that to go to the book. to
Correct.
Figure out which deal they fall under.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, that's the way it's measured, and as opposed to me determining that. That's not my job. That's why it's
That's
in the
standard.
standard. Yeah, pretty much. And they use the DOR code, Department of Revenue code, of course. They include single-family condominium, particular commercial uses, golf courses, et cetera. All the uses are in there for the most part. The Institute of Traffic Engineers publishes the trip generation manual, which we've talked about. It's updated about every 2 years. Relies on numerous DOR code studies to determine the daily trip generation numbers for each code type. The most recent is the 11th edition. I'm kind of repeating again, but the next page is an excerpt from the workbook And this gives you an idea. Now, these aren't all the uses that we use here in Gateway, but it's the majority of them. But this is where I go to. So if they give me actually the 110 and the 130 and the 140, you see the number after that? That's actually the ITE, the Institute of Traffic Engineers number. That's what that relates to. So for instance, if I see a DOR code of 1, that's a single family. If I see a DOR code of 4, that's a multifamily. And sometimes here where it says single family home is a 210, so it's 9.43 trips, which is down about 4 or 5 rows that you can see. Senior adult housing detached, 4.31. That's the age restricted community, which is down about a third of the way down, as you can see. The golf course on a per hole basis, 30 trips per day on a per hole basis, so 30 times 18. That's how that is used. So anyway, that's how.
Explain units, KSF, DU, what does KSF stand for?
Oh, per square feet, per thousand. Yeah, that's what the K stands for.
Okay,
Yeah, so
DU,
if you have a 10, DU is density unit, is what it means. And I will get into how that's measured when I show the example of my mythical community that we have coming up. But the point being is if you have a 10,000 square foot building and it has a trip generation of 5 per 1,000 square feet, it's going to be 10 times 5. Is how the math is done. Because you divide that 10,000 by 1,000, you get 10. And you multiply that by the number of trips per 1,000. And that's where we get our number. Okay, so next roadway measurement, we assign the corresponding daily trip figure. We add up all the trips in the community. Each parcel's trip is divided by the total number of trips that are generated within the community itself, which generates a percentage of the total for each parcel. And then the total roadway budget, which is in the silo, is multiplied by each parcel's percentage of total trips to generate the benefit assessment, the roadway benefit assessment for each parcel. So ultimately, when we're all said and done, I'm going to have a assessment for water management, assessment for roadway, an assessment for Parks and Rec, and an assessment for admin and landscaping if we decide to do that. So, and then those are all added up, and that's where your assessment is for the year.
Okay, but when we talked about waterways, you kept Gateway separate from Pelican. You said you were going to have 2 silos. When we talked about waterways and ponds.
Yes.
You said we would keep 2 silos.
Yes.
Are you keeping 2 silos for roads then also?
We haven't got there yet.
Well, isn't that a yes or no question?
It will be. Well, and really, I should say it will all be dependent upon the board and how that is handled. And I will get into that. That's part of my questions at the end.
Because that's the direction that you want from us.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Immediately, what I'm doing is laying how we measure it. Then we can determine what we're measuring. That makes sense.
Well, if
Yes,
you
so-
did it for
I'm sorry.
waterways, why wouldn't you do it for roadways?
Because you have a common area, that's why. You could, the common area on waterway is the flowway.
Yes.
On the common area for roads are all the common area roads. That's, you could do it.
Yeah.
You could do it.
We'll get,
Okay,
let's, and I love you guys are asking questions, but a lot of times the questions are answered when you get through it.
okay,
And you'll
I'm
see.
sorry.
But
No,
no,
we'll forget about
don't
that.
apologize. I'm glad you're doing that.
Well, I
forget
see
the
here the
questions
total
about that.
roadway budget silo is multiplied.
Right enough.
That would indicate
We
1.
appreciate this.
Oh, good. I mean, that's good. You're paying attention. That's important. Okay. Then the total roadway budget, again, it's all added up and then we multiply by that parcel's percentage and each parcel gets one. Now, this is the math. And I called it a mythical example because this isn't anywhere. This isn't Gateway, this isn't Pelican Preserve, but I just want to give you an idea on how it's all added up because we're doing this over 7,800 units and parcels. So, I mean, it would be really small, but I just wanted to give you an idea, a small amount how it works. So let's say we have a community that has 2,500 single family units, 500 multifamily units, 1 golf course that has 18 holes in it, a general office space that has 20,000 square feet, a shopping center that's 50,000 square feet, and a convenience service station, much like you have your 7-Eleven over here. And I kind of use that as an example because they have 6 pumps, right? And I say 6 pumps, actually they have 12, but I count the pumps themselves. I don't count each side of them because that's how they do it at ITE. It's based on the the pump, whether you're using one side or the other. So we do that, and the measurement again is a per density unit, or on a per hole basis for the golf course, per 1,000 square feet on the commercial. And then the convenience service station is based on a per pump station. They give you a trip number for that. So the ITE multiplier is single family is 9.43, multifamily is 4.81. I really should have probably put one in here for age restricted, just as to give you an example. But golf course is 30.38, and you can see 10.84 trips per 1,000 square feet for general office, and 37.01 square feet for a shopping center, and 265 trips per pump station. I mean, they generate a ton of trips because they're always getting gas all the time. So then I multiply those out, the number of units times the ITE multiplier. So for single family, 2,500 times 9.43 is 23,575 trips. And it's done that way all the way down. The total amount of trips generated in this little mythical community is 30,184. Then under the percent of the trips, so the 23,500 is 78% of the trips generated. And it always goes down the line, as you can see, it equals 100%. Then the budget is, I used $1.5 million just for a budget for that year. They must have some really nice roads. Anyway, so then you multiply that 78 times the 1.5 million. So the single family's allocation of the budget is almost 1.2 million on down the line. And then I divided it back up by the units. So each single family would be 468 for that road. A multifamily would be 239. 0.54 and the $1.84 is on a square foot basis. I went back to the square foot part. And then the convenience is 13,000. I mean, that's just a one spot. That's what they pay. So that's how it's measured. And we do the same thing here for Gateway. We didn't do that at Pelican Reserve. In the new, depending on how we do all of that, I'm going to show you how we would do it at Pelican Reserve, because those roads internally, the golf course is in there. So I need to do it on a trip generation basis. And I think I did show you when we went through the calculation, it's not much difference than our EAU that we were using originally.
So if you would have had a community in this theoretical community here, that was a Pelican Preserve senior citizen 55 and over, you would have had a listing there and a trip generation of 4.31.
Correct. Yep, based on the number of units that are in there.
Okay.
So it didn't matter what type of unit it was, because that's what I.
Instead of the 9.4, right?
Right.
Well, instead of the 9.43 and instead of the 4.81.
0.81, yeah, because there's a multifamily in there. So it wouldn't matter, it's just 4.4, it doesn't matter if
Well,
it's single family or multifamily.
For both single and multifamily.
Correct,
Well, if it's 4.81 for a
multifamily.
generic community, multifamily,
Mhm.
if you're age 55 and over, is it correspondingly reduced the way a single family is?
It looked like it was last.
No, it's 4.4, doesn't matter what kind of
Doesn't
unit
make
you
any
have.
difference.
Oh, 4.4, because that's the generic number.
4.4 or
That's
4.31.
Any multifamily, regardless.
I think it's
Any
4.4.
multifamily, any single family within the age restricted
Okay.
community. It's
Okay.
4.4. And it's because it's age restricted. I mean, that's how they measure it. I guess
Okay.
they didn't include golf carts in there, so.
That
The
just
bus stop.
complicates the hell out
I
of it.
know. Yeah, but they don't do a heavy impact on the road. Anyway, so that, I just wanted to give you an idea. That's how
Only
we,
when you have rumble strips.
yeah.
They're gone.
Well, part of them are gone.
But anyway, I just wanted all of you to understand that's how the math works. And we do it for Gateway, and then I'm going to show you kind of on Pelican Preserve. Because at Pelican Preserve, we didn't originally, remember what we did is it was just divided among everybody because it fell in that inside the gate budget. But I pulled it out and I took a look at those numbers. And so if you go to the Pelican Preserve budget, this was the same budget we looked at a minute ago, where I dedicated to what roads were in terms of safety and security, taking out the security part, the safety and security part.
So this is PP, right?
Yes, yeah, you can see at the top. I changed all the
Yeah, I didn't have
titles
anything.
now. I
Okay.
put them up there so that
I
it
still
made
got
it
the old
clear.
one. Okay.
Thank you very much for helping me with that. Just so we can make it clear what we're looking at. And then you can see the budget category was roads and the landscaping.
Okay.
So and when you see the version 5 budget where it says 1,023,000 there, that's actually all of those items. That includes your security and everything, but true roadway is 482,000 in there. So the number to really look at is the actual road cost. I see I put actual road costs in there. That's the actual road cost that we're measuring the benefit from, the trip generation from. So we had 482 under the roads, and then under landscaping was 766,000. So the total was 1.2 instead of 1.9. The difference is, again, your security system, gatehouse, all that good stuff, which we took out. So next slide, please. Here's how we did this. Now, in the golf course, originally, the way we did it, we did it based on units. And if you recall in our discussion we had about the old sales center and the town center, how I used to allocate that. I don't anymore. We used to allocate that, and then what I did, as opposed to putting that on the tax collector and the tax roll, assessment roll, I actually took those and would spread it between single family and multifamily. Now, I don't even put the benefit in there because it's truly a common element of CE. That's the designation of it. And the same will happen this coming year with the maintenance facility, the golf course or not the maintenance facility, the RV park, yeah, or the RV parking area. That will now, it won't get assessed because it was owned by WCI or Lennar, whoever it was, for a long time. But now that it's truly in your CE, it won't be assessed. So that means you just get a little bit more in your budget.
Spread out the money to the owners.
Yeah, exactly. Now, so when we did it before, they had 256 golf course units. Remember, we did that on 1 unit per acre basis. And then the old sales center was 1.86 and 21.61. And that was based, I mean, we don't really need to talk about it, but it was based on square footage. And then multifamily, each multifamily unit got a 1, a single family got a 1. And you see how I did the percentages. In the road landscape, the 1,248 would have been allocated accordingly, 115,086 for the golf course. And then each, there are a total of the total of the 1.2. It could be, that was total by category. And then you go down below, you can see where I had the units, the percent, and then it was $449 per unit for your roadway.
Can you slide that up a little, Chelsea?
I can't because it's a PowerPoint.
Okay.
Oh, sorry about that.
So the reason you didn't factor in, like if you were doing this on one side, you would have had single families with a multiplier of trip generation, multifamilies but since Pelicans, everybody is equal, you just count them as one on this analysis.
Correct. And this was inside the gate.
Okay.
This doesn't include the outside of
Does
the
that
gate.
help off?
This is the actual roadways inside Pelican.
Roadways
smaller.
inside.
Correct.
Gotcha.
That's a part of their budget.
And
then
the
you
other
can
big change, of course, is with the sales center and the town center coming out. All the residents are paying for those things anyway. It's whether we pay it in here and consider, or whether we pay it in dues.
Which pocket it comes out of.
So
Yeah,
this way is cleaner.
It's cleaner this way, and also it saves you money, because if you put on the assessment roll, you got a minimum markup of 3% for the collection costs.
4%.
Or, yeah, well, the 4% is the discount.
Either way, it's
Yeah.
net
we're-
good for the residents.
Right, and we did that originally from the beginning, even though we had to allocate at that point because it wasn't owned by the Commonwealth or the HOA, it was
It was
owned by
Lennar.
the developer. So we did assess it, and then we passed it back through. But now we don't have to anymore.
So the product inside the gate, those are the only 3 items.
The golf course, multifamily, single family, that's correct. And the multifamily and single family get the same, as you'll see. This is the way it was currently done, but we're going to change that, maybe. Well, no, we should, so we're consistent in measurement.
Well, to Flavia's question, the outside the gate, which we call shared,
Mhm.
was in the old methodology.
Yes, but they were part of the outside of the gate number.
Understand that?
Right.
We still part of our bucket of money.
Correct,
It only went to O2, didn't go anywhere else.
correct. But-
As we move forward, we're hoping to maintain it.
I understand that, and that's going to be a board decision on how we do that.
Okay,
But the point being here was this was actual roadway costs inside the gate.
okay.
That's what I wanted to do, was give you an apples to apples, like we do it over here at, like we all do it over here at Gateway.
Okay.
It's done the same way.
So on this table here, you've got 2 more lines that's not showing on the drawing, correct? One for the golf course, one for the sales center, which brings into the account those assessment shares.
Well, yeah, and there's no assessment shares for the common element for the golf course.
Well, right now, you've got 3 of the 5 up above showing, but you don't have the 2. You don't have the,
Sales center or the town center,
correct.
correct.
But,
We-
but those are numbers.
Yeah, when you see down below, if you look below, it says sales town center allocation.
So we don't see that on this slide.
Oh, it's
See, you got 5 up here, you only have 3 down here.
correct.
You don't have wholesale in town.
He says he's putting the sales in town center right there.
The
Oh, that-
allocation,
You're doing it, okay.
yeah,
Okay, you're
you have
doing
to, you have to follow it all the way across.
Okay. see it.
So
Okay.
theoretically, the golf
That's the
course
same
is,
thing.
the golf course is paying 449.52 per unit, and then
Okay.
453 and 453, you see. So I allocated it as, just as if we've been doing it. So if you go to the next slide, this is how we would do it inside the gate, same numbers. But now we're doing the Pelican Preserve trips, which I combined the single-family, multifamily. There's 10,766 trips. So that's 4.4 times the single-family and multifamily units. Okay? And then the golf course trips is 958. That's the 30 trips times 18 holes. Then you have the percent of the trips, which equals up to 100.
Times 18 or 27?
Oh, I'm sorry, times 27. That is
Okay,
correct.
okay.
Thank you. Thank you for correcting me. I
It
appreciate
was a
that.
question.
No. You are correct. I have to keep remembering that. So anyway, it's times the 27, and then gives you the percent of the trips, the budget allocation. As you can see, when you add single family, multifamily together, it's 2498, and the golf course is 1. So so you can see where the golf course came down to 101 from 115,000. It's a little bit better for them on a trip generation, but it's very close. So that's a good sign. And the other part of that is the single family went from 453 to 459, went up. So if we were to do trip generation inside the gate with your roadways, that's what it is. So it was just to give you an example of how the budget, so you can kind of give apples and apples comparison. Okay? Okay. Now, originally, we had talked about, and I've only done it this one way, but because there's a bunch of questions that come after this. But what I did was I took the Gateway budget and for the roads. And then what I did was I took all the trips at Gateway, and I took all the trips and added Pelican Preserve in it, also the Pelican Preserve golf course trips, the C5 trips, and the commercial trips. So all of the Gateway trips at the top of this slide includes commercial, it includes the golf course, that's everything, because otherwise I would have had a list of a mile long. So that's all of the Gateway trips.
Here's lumping them together.
I just lumped
into
them
the
all together.
categories.
Yeah, and then I added the 4 from Pelican Preserve, so we get an idea of how that relates to the 62,000 trips that are generated over here. And then you can see the percentages. And then if you take the Gateway budget, because we had talked about, are you sharing equally in those roads over here, which is a discussion that will need to be had. Here's how it all works out. In terms of the total, and I don't have the road assessment per unit on the Gateway. I could have added it in there, I just didn't put it in. But what I wanted to show was that if it was to go the way it was originally presented, where we're going to share that budget among everybody, then it'd be $114 per unit at Pelican Reserve increase.
Russ, just to clarify that your Gateway trips also includes Stony Brook trips?
Yes. Yeah, Stony Brook is included in that total. It has nothing to do with, they're inside the gate. This is actually, they're a part of the trips over here. They've been paying for the roads over here since I've been here. So.
Well,
So the shared component, by my math, is about $26, some change. In other words, 2,233,000 divided by 8405,
Divided by 84. Yeah, that would be.
about $26, $26 a unit. Okay.
No, per trips. You're talking about per trips.
If you go to your page right here, you're at 2,233,524.
Correct.
So everybody's share,
Yeah,
Common-
it is per trips.
It's on a per-
trips, that's what I was talking about. per
Yeah,
trips.
it's on a per
This is-
trip basis. So it's on a per trip basis. So if it's $23 or whatever you say it is, multiply that by 9.4 for a single family.
For
and
whatever
then
category you want to.
oh, you
Yeah.
haven't done that extension here. So what we really need to do then is to get the true numbers, because Pelican Preserve's 10,776 is at essentially 4.31, correct?
4 point, yeah, whatever, 4.3.
And the
correct.
gateways are either at 9 point or 7 point something.
And the golf course
Okay,
and
so
the
the
commercial.
math I did is not correct. We
Correct.
need another column that shows what the total trip generation is in both communities, then divided by the 2 million, or divided into the 2,233,000 to find out what the equivalent share of common roads are.
No, because
That's, I just did it. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what the math is.
it's just not breaking down categories. So the total, the 84,505, that's the total.
That's the
Okay.
total number of trips
Period.
for
Okay.
everybody.
And then under Pelican Preserve trips, that,
Okay, you
it
just
should have
take 12,
branched out.
you just take
exactly.
12.74%. Okay, got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then then they take the budget and I allocated that to that's where you get the 284. They divide it by the number of units. And
Am I reading this, Russ, that this is a proposal, what you have in front of us?
This is based on what the direction had been because of.
Correct. This
you-
is a proposal
Yeah.
for 25 and moving forward, for 26.
Yeah.
Okay, now my question to you is, if you take the 4 categories that are Pelican
Mhm.
and lump them the same way you did Gateway,
Mhm.
what's the change?
In terms of,
If the difference between the 62,000 and the 84,000 is some number.
yeah, and that's the 4
Okay,
categories.
now, if that's the number, and you apply the Pelican 55 and over to it,
You can't.
Why?
Because all the commercial uses have different trip
but in
generations.
the past we have.
No, well, in the past, remember, this is the budget that's outside, that's over here.
See, I understand where you're coming from. What I'm trying to determine is what is the impact of the proposed change to the Pelican residents?
It's right there on the right-hand side.
Okay, but
Yeah.
if it was all lumped as together, but you're saying now because of the new methodology, you don't feel comfortable with that.
It is lumped together.
Yeah, the 284, the 25, the 42, and the 219 added.
They're small percentages,
Is-
2%, 1%, but the commercials,
9.83, correct, percent. Of the trips, they're about 10% of the total
Okay.
trips in Gateway and Pelican Preserve combined.
21.
Within the district boundaries, that's the trips that are generated, 84,000 a day.
It's Stony Brook inside the gate as well,
That's Stony Brook, yeah, because I gave them their trip generation as well,
everybody. So
Everybody.
total
This-
trips in Gateway.
everybody. So Stony Brook is included in the Gateway trips, as is the golf course, as is all your commercial. That's the total. I didn't break it out because, like I said, it would have been a real long spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's what-
So because I already had that measured, I mean, because we've been using it for a few years now. Actually, I had it updated a year ago when we got the 11th edition. That's the total number of trips inside a Gateway.
so if we wanted to get a total, if you take the 1.661 from the 2,233,000, that's the apples and oranges of the impact, correct?
Yeah, that is the difference.
Okay.
So you take those 4 and add them together, and if I had my computer in front of me, I could have done it pretty quick.
What for? 21,629.
So 21,629.
You're talking for the trips?
No, he was
No,
talking
no,
about
the dollar.
the dollar
$5.
amount,
Dollar amount.
571
about 571 out of,
versus the 1661.
yeah, versus.
Okay.
So how is this different for Gateway? Did theirs go up also? Because you didn't include their units or their road assessment per unit either.
I didn't show what the difference would be. I'd have to go through and there's going to be difference for commercial, there's going to be a difference for the golf course, there's going to be a difference for single family, a difference for multifamily. I didn't calculate what the difference is, what theirs would go down by what this one is going up by.
Because you're saying that their methodology basically stays the same
Correct.
from
What they've done, yeah,
Like-
the way it's
from the
measured.
current to what you're proposing.
Yeah, so basically what would happen, Carol, is that 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 5, 4 would be allocated among the 63,000 trips. Now you're allocating among 84,000 trips.
I just did a calculation. What
Does that
it
make
changes is The one,
None of this makes sense.
Oh, okay.
what it changes is the 1/3, 2/3 ratio, if you did it on a unit basis, because of the 431 count, took that 33%, dropped it down to about 25%. That's the differential. About what we'd expected.
We did calculate outside of the gate too.
Wait till I do.
I get it.
I think there's some things you aren't considering.
Okay,
Okay, okay, no, finish up.
okay. Next slide, please. These are the questions that it's board discussion items. Because depending on how we look.
Direction we give you, then you adjust it accordingly.
Sorry?
Direction we give You adjust it accordingly.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. I mean, I gave you the methodology and how I will calculate it. And really what we're going to determine now is what parts of the budget go into the silos
Okay.
for all intents and purposes. I mean, that's the bottom line of it. Because the way we generate the trip
It's
generation
not gonna
is
change.
not going to change.
So you explained that part, and now we have to decide what goes in what.
Yeah, and one remaining question I have, and because I don't know the answer. Go back one slide. If that is the recommended allocation based on the trip generations,
Mhm.
how does that compare to what the actual is that we're doing this year? In other words, when I calculate this, I come to $570,000.
Yeah.
For Pelican Roads. What is it currently?
For Pelican Roads?
For those 5 categories?
No, it's the gateway. These are only the gateway roads, Bob.
No,
he's
no, no,
asking-
no.
Go back. He's asking between Pelican Preserve trips.
Golf course trips,
like,
C5 trips, commercial.
Between those, like,
Yeah.
all
That-
this combined is 566,000.
I got 571, but okay, we're
It's
close enough.
570, and so you divide 570.
No, 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 I don't
No,
care
no,
about
I
that.
know what
I'm
you're
taking
saying.
that as a
Now
standalone number. What does that
versus
compare to
this.
what we do today?
Right.
Zero right now.
Well, what we need to do, you saw it was like 400 and some dollars a unit, somewhere in there.
I have no
Remember?
idea what it is.
You
That's
Keep
why
going
I'm
back, keep going, there we go. No, next one. No, keep
Other
going.
way?
Keep going. There you go.
See, but we don't do it.
See, it's 489?
459.
459 is what you're doing inside the gate right now, based on your road budget and your number of units that you have in there and your trip generation. Remember, we changed it.
No.
It's not what he's asking.
I'm not asking for
I
assessment
think,
per unit.
if I'm looking at it, I think you're looking at a $500,000 difference. Is that what you're looking at?
Well, that's what I'm trying to determine. It looks like it's
'Cause I think that's what
500,000
we're
lower.
asking.
Yes,
Yeah.
570
So-
difference.
So
yeah.
right here, the budget allocation as of now is 1.146.
Correct.
And then if we go back
If
to
we-
how it
if
was,
we
it's gonna
adopt
be
this,
either 60.
The new allocation is 571.
To here, you mean, to Pelican
Yes.
Reserve?
That's all I'm talking about.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we're adding 500 to the 1.2. Is that
Correct.
what you're saying? We're
That's,
correct.
that's Bob.
No. I'm taking 500 away from the 1146.
No, you're adding
You're adding to it.
570.
So by adopting this methodology, it's going to cost the inside the gate residents an additional almost $600,000.
That's
Yes.
where that's
Yes.
where, yes, that's correct.
Yes, that's it.
That doesn't
And what
make
I
any
said
sense.
earlier, it was a third, it's really 25, and it's because of the .431 or the 4.31 trip generation versus the 9 over here. That's the difference.
Right.
It
And
allows a reduction in the cost.
Go back to the other slide. That one.
Add those four. Bob's right, it's about 570. So their share of additional costs associated with common area roads is 570 to be split among their group, however that calculation showed.
yeah, so what we're doing as opposed to just, you have your budget inside the gate, and now we're taking the common area roads that are over here and spreading them among everybody based on trip generation.
Okay, but the common area roads over there, the Pelican Reserve Golf Course trip, the C5 trip, and the commercial trips right now,
Mhm.
those collected monies are in the O2 budget. We collect them, we distribute.
Right.
At the present time.
But they don't pay for your roads.
Excuse me,
They don't pay for your roads.
what do you mean they don't? They're
The
collecting
the
money.
570,
They don't drive
Bob, is
inside the
not,
gate.
that 570 that you added
They're
up, and I
outside.
agree with, is currently not in your budget right now.
No, today it is in my budget is what I'm saying. Today, when those monies are collected, all of the monies inside the gate, outside the gate, in Pelican, go into the O2 account. Today.
Right. What he's trying to do He's taking the common area costs of the district and allocating those, and 570 or 25% of that is assigned to Pelican. It's added to your total cost, of which then you do the distribution and determine what that is.
Okay,
It's
but-
real easy to calculate it. Take 570 divided by the total number of trips, and that's the add-on.
$229.
I don't
But
know
here's
what
my
it
point, is that little bubble around Pelican and it's inside the gate and outside the gate, as that money has been heretofore collected by the district, it's all been in the O2 account. And what I think I'm hearing is, it's not all going to be in the O2 account. It's now going to come over here to a mystery account. Part of it, the outside the gate part of it, the 4 components that are listed here. Am I missing something?
No, I think you're still going to have whatever you get into that O2 account. This is over and above that. This is the actual road cost that's shared by everybody. So,
Which you were
Yeah.
collecting before, and you will be collecting now.
well, we were collecting before only in the gateway side.
That's what I meant, Pelican.
Yeah.
Russ, if you just real easy,
Okay,
if you
so I
go
get
back
it.
to that, if you go back to this table right here, 570 to that, and that's exactly what it is. You have the security and safety, you have the landscaping, and you have the common share, which
Right.
is 570.
Right,
That's it.
it's,
So in
it's,
summary, you will not, I think I get what you're saying. The additional, the $571,000 that you'd be adding on is what Pelican Preserve residents
So
were not
multiply
paying
that
on the
by
gateway side for
4
those, for that category.
Correct.
Well, why would we have been paying for
that's why it's
Because
on.
there's a benefit. That's,
To benefit to who?
About the Pelican.
that's a question to us. So I'll explain to you, so you got it. So what happened is, it's not as an increase, is that you weren't, the Pelican Preserves were not paying for that 571,000 because it was on the gateway side. But now, with the new methodology, there's a benefit for it.
Benefit for
and
everybody,
for
and all the
everybody.
trips are included on that.
Yeah.
Correct.
No.
No.
You're missing the point. I don't think that the people of C5 or the commercial properties benefit anybody over here.
But they're part of the district.
Well, there is a way, the way we've always done it.
But that.
And that's a board decision, I
But that
think.
was repealed.
Is that a board decision?
That is a board decision. It's a
Okay.
board decision.
So don't say that it isn't. It is a board decision. And what I'm suggesting to the board is, we're trying to be fair and equitable and all those good motherhood words. How can we, in good conscience, say that what we've done for 25 years relative to these individual areas now mysteriously benefit Gateway $600,000? It doesn't change a frapping thing over here. The only thing it has is open your wallet, Pelican, and pay. I don't know any other way to say it.
Let me go through
If you
the,
look at it the other way, we've been paying it over here, and we're all in the same district. We're just going in circles of chapter 6 again. That's all we're doing.
I thought we were having a discussion, Ed.
well,
And there are more than one person
just,
adding to this discussion.
let me go through my question, and I know what
Okay,
yours, I
so-
understand.
That- What your figures are showing us here is that
I agree.
everything is put into one silo for, so
Everything,
inside or outside Pelican and Gateway all go into one silo. What if you, now, what are the figures if you kept it 2 silos?
if the way I have done it, you still have your roads inside Pelican Reserve, which you're paying for. And that was the analysis where I showed you, it was 469. And now what I've done is I've taken the gateway side, which was the discussion initially when all this took place, was that roadway budget now gets split among everybody, including C5, including the commercial over there. All of those are included. And then the golf course, the Pelican Reserve Golf Course. Now, that's what this analysis does. That's where we go up, and I didn't show what the reduction is over at Gateway. It's $500,000 coming out of the budget, spread among all the units over here. However,
My question is,
well,
Okay.
I understand. Go to the board discussion items, please. Now, here's the questions that are out there. I said the first one, should landscaping be included in the roadway calculation for both Pelican Reserve and Gateway, which is what we had talked about at one time. Landscaping could become its own silo and have a separate benefit measurement applied. Although, to me, as we talked about, the landscaping, unless it went to a certain place, like if you were doing the park or you were doing landscaping that was along the water management system, it would fall into those silos and it's benefiting those silos. These are on the roads. Therefore, that's the best measurement for it. Now, the second question.
Well, before you go off of that,
Oh.
I understand what you're saying. That's, that's one option. What's the option of having them separate?
You could do it separate. What I'm saying, if we did it separate, then I have to come up with a benefit measurement calculation for landscaping.
Okay.
But Bob, that. hurts
And if
Pelican
I
to
did
do
that, I'm sorry, Mr. Tinkle, but if I did that, then how am I going to measure the landscaping? Then I do it equally for everybody. So what happens if you do it that way? If you're a lower trip generation, you're going to pay more. And if you're a higher generation, you're going to pay less.
Okay.
But that, again, you're focusing on inside the gate.
No,
And
I'm
I'm
just
saying,
saying,
forget
if we did it
inside
here
gate.
at Gateway or we did it over at Pelican Preserve, it'd be
If
the
we-
same thing.
If we take the footprint that Pelican has historically covered, inside gate, outside gate, commercial, that's our footprint.
Correct.
And you do that as a standalone, then it can't be a change in cost.
Okay, and you can do it, you're talking about Pelican Preserve, but you have your own budget for landscaping, right?
Which also includes outside the gate.
Right, and we did split that.
Well, I'm saying don't split it. That's the whole point. We currently
If you don't,
allocate, budget, and maintain that.
if you don't split it, then people inside the gate are going to be paying more because then you're taking it away from outside the gate people.
Correct. You don't want to do that, Bob.
You don't want
I'm
to do
not
that.
doing that. I mean, I can't understand how, I can't wrap my head around this. If I have a budget today,
Landscaping, correct,
landscaping and roads, I have a budget,
correct.
and I don't change, I just totally ignore the terminology inside the gate, outside the gate. If nothing changes, whatever I spent last year, I'm going to spend this year.
Correct.
There's no change. How's that negatively impacting anybody?
Well, if you kept it the same, what's happening now is we have inside the gate, outside the gate in your landscape budget. So we're taking the outside of the gate portion of that out. Everybody in Pelican Reserve, everybody
And I'm
along
saying
tree.
why?
Just a minute.
Okay,
Let me finish. You have tree line landscaping.
Yep.
Okay, so inside the gate, outside the gate, all benefit from that. You do, they benefit from it, you benefit from it. It's outside the gate, but everybody benefits from that. And that's where they got that percentage that
did
was
they
originally.
benefit from it last year?
Yes,
Okay. Why are we changing anything? They got their benefit last year. They're going to get their benefit in future years.
well, and that's a part of the discussion that we can do with the silos if we need to say, okay, we're going to put that portion of it is outside the gate. Maybe that goes to everybody inside a gateway, everywhere, because that's outside of the, that's a common area,
Going back
kind
to
of,
the
wait a minute.
outside gate.
It's a common area, just like your common areas over here.
Every road in Pelican's common. We can't keep people out. Every single road in Pelican is common area.
That's fine. I mean, I get
Well, then
that.
why are we making this distinction? That's what I'm getting at. Everybody can ride on tree line, can ride anywhere in Pelican. What's the difference?
There
There is no difference.
there's district roads. I get that.
Doug,
So-
They're- yeah, district road, public road, really.
They're
Well, the
public,
only
that's what I
thing-
mean by
You're
district
not, you're
roads.
not talking about roads. The only thing you're talking about is landscaping.
Correct.
Because the
I'm
roads
talking all
belong
of
to
it.
the city or the county. So
I'm
there's
talking
no-
all of it.
There's no road cost associated with it. It's purely landscaping.
For the landscaping outside of the
Outside,
gate.
yeah.
Correct.
Doug has a question.
Doug, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, and what I may need to do is get time with Russ separately, because I have a couple questions. But Russ, when you're doing your calculations for Pelican and you're looking at trip generation, if I'm thinking of those that live, within the, inside the gate from Gateway,
Mhm.
and we map usage, pretty much everyone within Gateway is going to hit, Gateway Boulevard, Griffin, at a certain percentage. Let's say that's everyone who lives in Gateway is going to hit Gateway Boulevard or Griffin about 80% of the time. If you're in Stony Brook, you have to hit it 100% of the time, right? Because there's no other way out.
Correct.
I think what Bob might be getting at is when we were having the conversation, it was trying to identify benefit. Is there a benefit? And if we say, yes, there's a benefit, well, what percentage of that benefit are we going to allocate for the assessments? So when you're looking at, maybe I'm just not picking up on this. If you're looking at Pelican's impact to roads, what are you identifying as their benefit? Is it just equal to Gateway? Is it, equal to a Gateway resident, or is there a percentage based on your calculations? Based on use or access or what?
Basically, there is no percentage of use other than the trip generation portion of it. That's really the percentage of use.
So
Okay.
you just use the calculations that you were given, you just apply them to the methodology.
Correct.
Okay.
So what we could do, or as an option, we could say, okay, if all things being equal, this is what the split would be. However, if we calculate benefit, then that amount could potentially be reduced due to the access and, benefit and accessibility, could be argued. But we could play around with the percentage.
But then you wouldn't be utilizing the trip generator.
It's a tool, Bobby,
Yeah.
because we can't really sit here and say to ourselves, a resident of Gateway Greens is going to use Pastoria Boulevard
I
or
get
Cypress
that.
Grove. Well,
But what Ross is saying is that's how you use it to get. the
that is
numbers.
a method,
Yeah.
and we're suggesting it may not fit.
I could very easily see, because I do it myself, very easily see that the landscape issue associated with, it's called the street,
Right away.
the road.
Tree line.
Tree line
Tree line.
would be added as a common area cost. I can see that very easily.
You mean to the overall Gateway part?
That is to Gateway as Gateway Boulevard and Griffin is.
But you never paid in the
But
past.
that would be very easy to add that component of cost as a common area cost. I think what Doug is coming up with is what I've been trying to say for the last year on this with Pelican, is I think Doug is saying, is there another factor that we could apply that would be for people that live somehow, some way, I sure as hell don't want to use that stupid,
Interconnect.
what do you call it, connectivity.
Yeah,
crap.
interconnect.
Not that again, but what is a reason, what would be a justification? Because this thing's got ramifications. It's not only Pelican, it's Arborwood, it's Worthington.
Mhm.
Stony Brook.
So how, and Stony Brook, how do
Yeah.
you come up with
Well-
a deal?
Well, and Russ, here's my point. And I think ultimately, if I'm thinking about what my philosophy is going into this whole thing with Chapter 6 was, if we are one gateway, we need to operate as one gateway. When we're looking at, separating whether it's Stony Brook or Pelican, how do we get under one gateway umbrella? So that, for me, that was the guiding principle. How do we unify gateway under one, for lack of a better term, one GL? But there could be additional concessions or considerations in that assessment methodology model. And for two reasons. One, I think we've been doing it a certain way for 20 years. If our guiding principle is to get under all one gateway, it may not be, fair and reasonable to say in the next year, Pelican, you have to, absorb this $500,000 cost for roads or whatever. We either stagger it or say that there is a percentage based on benefit or whatever the calculation is that we can apply. And so at the end of the day, we're one gateway, but we're also trying to be, fair and equitable and defendable in how we're doing our methodology. So, there is some consideration or I can't remember what the word I'm looking for is, but some concessions that we make in order for it to work for everyone.
Some accommodation.
I've come up with the same thing, Doug, for months now, trying to figure out what is the factor we use, short of connectivity. That created enough trouble 20 years ago. No need to do that again. What can we use? Because it's going to be tested by the people in Arborwood, people in Worthington. So we got to have Stony Brook. So we got to have an answer as to what the basis is. I cannot think of one other than just an arbitrary picking of a number.
Well, and to be honest with you, you can always create discount factors within
That's
the,
what we're talking about.
I know.
That's
I-
exactly what this is.
Exactly right. And I understand that part too. And there's a lot of ways we can measure that. I mean, you and I talked about that today, about maybe it's there to get to these roads, they got to go outside of the boundary, the district boundary. So what is that discount factor? You know, those are, and
But see, that still keeps the same three players in the game.
Well, and here's the thing too, Russ, what I'm thinking is, I think there's two tiers here in my, layman's small brain. It's one, the first factor is overall benefit to Gateway. And that has to be factored in. So to me, there's a minimum. And let's just say, I'm arbitrarily throwing a number out there. Let's say that's 10% or 10, 20%. That all of Gateway, there is a benefit to the roads, landscaping, to all these things that is inherent to all communities within Gateway. Then there is, the second tier, which is either access or, something else. And I'm not talking about connectivity. I'm talking about, actual access and usage. So if I were to map 100 users in Pelican, if I were to map their, their not necessarily trip generation, but literally their active use, is there a percentage of Pelican users that are, accessing, Gateway outside of Pelican? Is there a way to kind of look through that to say, okay, if we look at the total amount, the factor is 20% because it's 10%, which is common. That's that's the standard. And then additional 10% that is additional use. And again, these are completely arbitrary numbers I'm throwing out there. Because again, if I do that same mapping, kind of geo mapping of someone in Stony Brook or Gateway Greens or any other community on this side, that usage is going to be a hell of a lot higher because you have to hit the roads, you have to, drive by landscaping. So that's going to be, at a minimum 80%. Now Gateway Greens might even be less than Stony Brook because you can go out the back way. You may not hit Gateway Boulevard. That's the way I'm kind of thinking about it. And I don't know if that's an accurate way of thinking, and I know that you've kind of, I think said something similar, but I don't know if we kind of grasp it at the time that you had mentioned in the past. That's where I kind of got the idea. Like, it doesn't have to be a, split 50-50 because it may not be 50-50. And we could argue for Pelican that it is not 50-50, and we don't want to use interconnectivity, but that is really kind of the baseline behind the thought process.
I don't think anyone in Pelican is quote unquote not willing to pay their fair share. How you
But
define,
what's the fair share? That's what we have to
how you
determine.
define the fair share is the nut we got to crack.
Yeah,
And if interconnectivity is not a word that is acceptable, I don't care.
And
But there's got to be something other than one size fits all.
And I'll argue too, Bob, like even when it comes to roads or whether it's the, administrative, utilities or even the parks, there is, there's a fare or an ante that Pelican has to pay because they are still within the district. You can't get around that. So there is a bare minimum that Pelican
Nope.
will need to pay. And I think Pelican will be okay with that as long as it's reasonable.
and Doug, Mr. Banks, actually, I have been thinking on down that line, I've been thinking about it a lot. How do we determine that? And we were kind of driving, I actually getting ahead of myself because we were looking at that. How do we do the Parks and Rec, which is what you had just mentioned? How do we do that in terms of usage, which really is kind of the same way with the roads. And unless you put, a trip, what do they call them? The little
Recorder.
recorder. Yeah. You
Yeah.
put them down and you need to put them on each of the units. It's just-
Randomly pick 200 homes in each community.
it still gets expensive. But the point being is the board is the one that ultimately will make that determination.
So-
Yeah.
This is just.
And I think in this case, we're going to have to literally come up with an educated percentage,
Correct.
whether, let's just say if it's 15% and we say, okay, yeah, we think that's reasonable. I mean, we're all for, smart individuals with business backgrounds. I'm sure us in relate with staff and Russ and you and our experts, I'm sure we can come up with a percentage that we can say is fair and equitable and defendable based on, X, Y, and Z. And what we don't want to do is get back to where we were in the past, which it does sound similar, that those percentages were just arbitrarily, thrown out there. And we wanted to use the methodology because that is defendable and justifiable. So we need to find something that is a number we're comfortable with, but we can also justify based on, some type of calculation, even if it's not a hard, hard data like actually doing a geo tracking or something along those lines, because that's too arduous. We wouldn't be able to do that. But I think we could do it. I think we could come up with a number and we can compromise through. It might take us 30 minutes or 45 minutes to come up with a compromise, but I think we could do something either this is the number we're going to set, or this is the number that we're going to tier over the next 3 to 5 years in order to get us to whatever the number is. I don't know what the solution is, but I think we can do it.
Russ, I don't think the issue is the percentage. I could arbitrarily say, let's go with 25, let's go with 30, let's go with 15. That's not the problem.
How you reason
It's
that?
who you're applying it to. There's the problem. Who are you applying it to and what's the reason?
And there ought to be a
There's
differential.
where It
Yes,
gets
we need the
immensely
reason.
If
complicated.
there is a logical, reasonable differential to look at one community versus another, that sounds logical to me.
But the trouble is that gets back into the very issue, we're one district.
Okay. but
Right,
here's-
but what Mr. Banks was saying, and I agree with him, maybe there's a baseline that everybody, like 20% is everybody, and then we go through and maybe use a combination of trip generation and a discount factor somewhere in there among the rest and how it gets allocated.
So that's
I mean,
my
there's-
question. Doesn't the trip generation already allows?
Does that.
It's already, so that's the part that I'm having an issue with. If we're using trip generation, it already gives them a
it's benefit.
discount. It's already
But-
given a benefit.
Yeah, but but Flavia, I think the trip generation assumes traffic in areas that
Is equal.
is equal. Yes.
Yeah, they go everywhere.
Yeah, that's an assumption.
That's not the
Uh,
reality. That's
And it's based on,
Yeah.
statistical
And-
reasoning, but, we could say, I do think I completely agree and with where we're at right now and how we need to do it appropriately and using the methodology. But I would say that someone in Pelican is not going to have the same, traffic and usage and benefit as someone in Stony Brook.
So can I help with this conversation?
Yeah, go ahead.
So right now, we operate that Stony Brook pays for everything inside of their gate, Pelican pays for everything inside of their gate, for
And
roads, for roadway expenses.
right
Correct.
now, outside
Right.
too.
Correct.
Roadway
Not-
and landscape.
Okay, yes. Is that how we
Wh-
want to?
What is that amount? Hey, what's that percentage, Chelsea? I think you might be getting to something. What is that percentage in regard to the larger distribution?
And what she said is a little misleading,
Because
because Pelican or Stony Brook already pays in the 001 and pays their
Well,
share
that-
of it.
Outside.
That's complicated.
That's where she was going.
That,
We let Chelsea finish.
Well, I want to make sure that she understands. Pelican
Yeah.
is already
She understands
paid.
what she's gonna say, just
She
let her
knows.
finish.
Yeah, she knows.
So-
Make sure she understands.
thank you. I do understand.
get it right, you better understand.
just-
And you're gonna be
I-
outside soon.
Get it right, get it right.
I just
So-
want to hear what she's gonna say.
So,
I like that I changed you guys around, thank you.
Yeah, Ed's going to be in the gallery soon.
So-
That was the reason. You're welcome.
my point in bringing that up is we have some questions here that we could easily answer that I think are going, by answering those, you're going to get to the direction that you're going. So right now, Stony Brook pays for everything inside of their gate, roadway and landscaping, to their 004 budget. They pay in their proportionate share to the 001 for their, whatever that percentage is of the general fund costs. So Gateway
Equally.
Boulevard, equally, yes.
And it's based on trip generation.
That's based on trip generation. Pelican pays for inside of their gate. They don't have roadway expenses for tree line because that's owned by the county. We don't have an interlocal for that. They pay for the landscaping, which is also paid for by the commercial parcels. Now, do you have a method you like more?
Hey, Chelsea, really quick, what is the percentage that Pelican pays in relation to the total? And Russ, this might be a question for you. What is the current percentage that Pelican pays in relation to the total amount that Gateway, like if we were to look at the percentage of what Pelican pays, what percentage of that
That's what I thought.
is of the larger?
Nothing.
Nothing, it's zero.
No.
You're asking currently, what do they currently pay, like as of this?
No. If you say Pelican, their road expense, road and landscaping today for what they pay within Pelican is what percentage of of the total amount that Gateway pays
Pelican
today.
pays 1.2 million for their expenses, and then the Gateway's budget, correct me if I'm wrong, Russ, is 1.6. Is that correct for the roadway?
No, it's 2
No,
point,
it's 2.2.
2.2.
233.
And
so
recognize
it's
it's
about one third,
two-thirds
two
bigger.
third almost in terms of the
You know,
budget.
it's twice our size.
Okay.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So you'd expect a
74%.
differential.
So it's two.
Doug, Tony has a comment.
Just a thought, maybe it's too old, but initially the DRI DO for Pelican Reserve required probably a plumber traffic impact statement, which indicated volumes and turn radius and trips, correct? And I'm wondering, and again, if that's something that might be useful and the plumber could update that based upon current conditions and actual build out. Because when they did the DRI, they had to determine what the regional impact was as well as the local road impact, correct?
In terms of total units, yeah.
From Pelican Reserve. When they did the Pelican Reserve DRI in the city of Fort Myers.
Oh, when they did the original, the DRI for Pelican Reserve, not the
Correct.
original Gateway.
Correct,
Yeah, okay.
because there were two of them. There was one originally back in the 86, 87, 88,
Right,
when the Gateway DRI was established. Or
which included
approved.
everything.
Correct, and then there was a separate, probably, traffic
Is that
impact
what you
statement
read?
and study
Is that what you have?
prepared probably in 2000, 2001, 2002, whenever, for the
Okay.
Pelican Reserve DRI. Would that be helpful? And that is it, it's just a
It's just another piece that I
a
can look
sense
at.
of what the impacts were determined or estimated at that time. Yeah.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I think Ed Hedges has been almost jumping out of his chair to say something.
Well, he has a comment
Could
because
we
he,
just call on him?
well, are you gonna utilize your comments now? Because he had asked at the last meeting to speak after Russ. So either he speaks now or he speaks after Russ.
Why do we want to limit him? I'd like to hear what he has to
Go ahead
say.
and- I just want to make sure, because,
I think he could add to this
Okay.
discussion.
so if you
Could
want to
we
step
call
up to
on
the
him?
podium, yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Am I putting them on 3 minutes?
Yes,
Fine.
because he asked, there was a public comment that he
Wait a minute, he came
requested
here
at
on
the
a
last
Tuesday,
meeting.
she
This
gets
this is
6
a workshop, it's not public comment.
It is not. Oh, well,
Just identify yourself, Ed, for me.
I
Okay,
think the
so then I wouldn't, because during the board workshop, there are no comments from the audience.
unless we allow.
What I was going to say is that under the regular meeting, he had requested to speak, and that's what I was waiting on. So that's why I was asking him, are you going to
Okay.
speak now as a, if it was in the regular meeting? But now that I'm looking back, technically, he wouldn't be able to speak during the workshop, so I'm allowing him to do so.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, you have your 3 minutes.
First, I don't really understand why they're,
Say who you are.
Ed Hedges, 10532 Azura. First, I don't really understand why there's so much focus on inside and outside the gate for Pelican. In many cases, it's a distinction without a difference. The commercial parcels outside the gate and residence areas inside the gate are all part of the City of Fort Myers Pelican Preserve Special Development Area, and they're all subject to the Pelican Preserve covenants. Regarding the roads, the engineering report identified ownership, but it really didn't identify the function. And the Pelican Preserve DRI Map H, which was recently amended for the emergency access road, but if you go back to this road, it identifies the major roadways, Tree Line, Pelican Boulevard, Cypress Grove, Prado Boulevard, all the roads that is the landscaping budget as arterial roads that provide ingress, egress to the individual 28 residential neighborhoods within Pelican. You guys keep talking as Pelican as if it was one neighborhood. It's not. It's 28 individual neighborhoods. And those roadways are common community roadways, just like they provide the same function that Griffin Drive and Gateway Boulevard provide to Gateway. Those provide that same arterial connectivity between the residences and the commercial areas in the broader state roadway system. One solution to this would be to separate and distinguish within Pelican neighborhood roads that are within each of the 28 neighborhoods, and they aren't landscaped by CDD. And they are basically equivalent to the individual neighborhoods over here in Gateway. And then treat these arterial roads as community roads equivalent to Griffin,
And Gateway.
Gateway, and the other CDD roads over there. And then you could have, if you want everybody to pay for all the community roads, fine, split it 2/3, Gateway could pay 2/3 of Pelican's community road expenses. We can pay 1/3 of Gateway's community road expenses. But the inside, the outside, the gate is kind of nonsensical when you look at the function of the roads. And when you realize that Pelican isn't one neighborhood, that gatehouse is just a common gatehouse for all 28. We can't keep anybody out. Everybody has individual neighborhoods. One other thing, while I'm up here, all the expenses that Russ identified doesn't include them all. There's some in operations, the staff labor, there's electricity for the streetlights on Pelican. So there's other expenses in the operations that weren't included in the landscaping and the safety and security budgets. So anyway, my time's up.
Thank you, Ed.
The thing I've got about that is I understand totally what he's saying. And if you're gonna do that, I'm gonna take and declare 3 of my roads in Gateway Greens, the same thing. They connect my 16, 18, 20 communities, same thing. So you'll put mine in the pile too. And you're gonna have every association in this community doing the same thing.
Are they all wide open, Ed? I don't know.
You can't do that.
What do you
can't
mean?
do that. I'll vote against that every
No,
time.
I just
until
asked the
hell freezes
question.
over.
Are all these communities wide open to the public?
Yeah, anybody can come in. Anybody can
Okay,
come in.
you can't
They
stop me if I
They
want to.
can be a guest, they can be whatever they want, club member, you name it, they can come in.
Okay, I didn't know that. I
But
thought you had.
you just can't play that private deal because you got,
No, you say they
it's
are.
not fair and equitable. That's-
Well, you're saying they're open. Flavia said they're
They're
not.
not open, right?
Do what now?
You're,
You could be a guest or a.
okay, you can be a
Yeah.
guest, but they're not.
If I just ride
To come
up,
in- To come in and just
if
go.
if I
straight in,
ride up
no.
and say, I'd just like to come in,
No.
can I do that?
No, no.
Then it's
So
closed.
the issue is.
So they're not the same. That's an apple and an orange.
I'd much rather get back, instead of opening that can of worms, is get back to saying, we pick a percentage. Again, I don't have any problem with the tree line in the, what do you call it, landscaping. I don't have any problem with that, because you could very well argue that that is synonymous with Griffin Drive, Commerce Lakes, and Gateway Boulevard. But the problem is, how do we rectify who benefits by it? If we would say Pelican Reserve gets a 25% deduct factor applied to the total cost of what was 1,248,000 or 223, if you get that, what keeps somebody else from coming in and saying, I want the same applied? That's where our problem is. It's driving me crazy. I can't come up with anything that solves that problem, save one. And it's the very issue that got us in this mess in the first place, connectivity.
Well,
We're just going in circles.
so to answer Bob's question, I think, and you started the question, I think if we can get consensus from the board. So part of this assessment methodology is to ratify processes that we have done informally for many years and actually make them formal.
Codify.
Yes, exactly. So tree line was a perfect example. So if we can get direction from the board, so now we are not obligated by any interlocal, and to my knowledge, I'll let Tony chime in if he says otherwise, by the DRI approval for the maintenance of tree line from Pelican Preserve Boulevard to
Our house.
Colonial. Now, we've chosen to do that because we've set a higher standard level of service. If we would like to continue to do that, then we would like to set that as the direction. And then from that point, we can have Russ work with determining the benefit. Continue to be all of the commercial parcels. It could be everybody in Gateway because it's a common road, an arterial road. So if we can start with that basic question, do we want to continue to maintain the landscaping on tree line from Pelican Preserve Boulevard all the way to Colonial?
And the simple answer from the community point of view is absolutely.
And I have absolutely no problem. I use tree line. I go down that road all the time, a lot of times. So I have absolutely no argument that that road is not a community road.
So we want to, okay,
So I would agree to take the landscaping component of that road cost and throw it in the cost.
You're getting ahead, you're getting ahead.
What cost?
In
That's right,
the common.
but common for.
Well, you're saying the opposite of what I
Gateway.
said, Ed.
So the Gateway Road cost, the what we had a while ago was what, 2,233,000.
Okay, so you put
I
it
would-
on our side, I get it.
I would
Okay.
take that landscaping and add it to that figure,
Okay,
so that everybody in Gateway pays for that.
And the Pelican residents say the exact opposite because it
No, but you
impacts,
want that. You want what you're saying.
no, I don't. We want to continue being responsible in the O2 budget for maintaining that road. Because then we
You
can
don't-
set the standards that we want.
No,
Like we always
That
have.
complicates it.
So, yeah, because what he's saying is, our Gateway side will pay for a portion of that, and you don't want that.
No, because we've always paid it. We're okay with paying it. We have no problem with paying it. It's in our budgets. We've been paying it
well,
25 years.
part of this goes to, if it's within the 002 budget, their landscape subcommittee oversees those district
It's the
assets.
control, that's, he was very clear.
So
Well, it's control, but it's also money. But I mean, we make sure it stays to the level that
Well, if
we
it's
want.
money, then you wanna take that burden from your residents. If it's just money, then you would allow the Gateway side to pay for a portion of that because we do use it. But it's mainly control because you want a certain look.
To keep the
So
look right.
it's-
That's
it's-
correct.
It's a control that you're willing to pay for.
It's an extremely important part of our community.
And when you come out of that gate, you have no choice. You have to go on tree line. You either go left or you go right. I mean, it's not like there's another road that you can get.
A choice.
It's,
Yeah,
That's it.
and again, that's why I said I have no problem with paying the landscaping cost of that, including it in the common area road budget. for Gateway.
You
I don't
keep
have
going
any
back to the common area road. budget.
I
We
don't
are
have a problem with that.
diametrically opposed to that.
We're what?
Not in favor of that.
I'm just trying to take some of the costs
Yeah.
that are over there and put it in a shared cost deal. And I don't know any other way of doing it. That's the only one I can.
Leave it
Well,
like.
here's what we need to do. So we understand what the costs are. I think we're all in agreement that, Pelican does need to pay some portion. We need to figure out what that portion is. And I think if we can all maybe brainstorm a little bit, maybe Russ can get creative. And at some point, we need to come back with options, whether we each have our own recommendation or there is an option, and we will vote and agree on what that option is. We're just debating back and forth today, and I don't think we're gonna, we're at a point where we have any solid recommendation that the majority would support. But I think we will have it at some point in the near future.
We're on a good path that we're now talking about alternative ideas. I like.
And I would say, Bob, you and Carol and Pelican, if you can look at what you would be comfortable with and something that you could justify, because you're looking at it because it's your community and you have, direct impact. And then I think the other board members, along with Russ, or maybe even staff, can look at, our own recommendations. And if we can come up with a couple, I'm sure we can come up with a compromise that'll work, that's justifiable and calculatable.
Yes, Russ.
okay,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Carol.
so you said we could do what ifs. So you've given us the what if on your first question back there. You've given us the what if for if everything is put into one silo. Correct?
That first one was,
Okay.
do we separate landscaping, which is what Mr. Gephardt
So
mentioned.
Can you give us the numbers for our next meeting if we don't?
If you separate them?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I could probably do it now because I think it's the last two after that.
I
may
think
not
we're
have
getting
an impact
confused.
But
today. I don't-
anyway.
There's 3 silos, guys. There's 3
Just-
silos.
Ed, that's our choice, how many silos we want.
There's 3 silos. There's the 001, there's the 002, and then there's the shared silo of the common area maintenance. That's the problem, and that's what we're discussing.
Well, I'm
I
talking
don't
about the
think we
3
have an issue on
silos,
2 of those.
the 3 silos of the methodology, which is water, admin, and roads.
No.
Those could be
I'm
4.
I'm talking about just on roads. There are 3 cost components. There are the cost components of things within Gateway. There are cost components of the things that are within Pelican Reserve. And then there's this common area. That's where we're at right now. How do we
What
split
about
that common
landscaping,
area?
Ed? You're totally ignoring the kick out landscaping.
But-
I don't think that's in your benefit to do that.
Well, I don't know if it is or isn't. I'd just like to see what it.
Okay,
So Can you do that for our next meeting?
Yeah, let
Okay,
me,
thank you.
let me bring up something first here. Mr.
Okay.
Edges makes a very good point, that there are arterial roads inside of Pelican Preserve, and then there are neighborhood roads inside of Pelican Preserve. Maybe, and haven't looked at it this way, but maybe we take, and I've asked the engineer to get me the road miles, both at Gateway, both at Pelican Preserve, so I can calculate a per road mile budget. So we know what it is on a per road mile budget. So what we can do then is measure the arterial roads inside of Pelican Preserve, and then we have the roads here that we're measuring, and we put them all in the one bucket and to do it by trip generation
And Stony Brook.
and Stony Brook across the board.
Whose arterial roads are those?
I'm sorry,
Whose arterial roads are those?
The district.
districts, district owns them inside of Pelican Preserve.
I've got a map of all Lee County roads, and it does not show Pelican Preserve's roads as being arterial because they're not in Gateway, in Lee County.
They're in the city of Fort Myers.
So that's my question. Are they arterial roads in the city of Fort Myers?
Yes.
Yes,
They are assigned as arterial roads in the Pelican Preserve DRI.
For the city of Fort Myers?
Yes.
so it's not all the roads in there.
Oh, I understand that.
And what I'm saying, if we can measure those and measure the gateways and
I'm
put them,
just a little surprised by the definition of an arterial road.
yeah.
That does not meet the definition.
Put
That's
in
why
the-
I'm a little concerned about that.
Goes back to the DOR codes. You know what I'm
I can
saying?
understand it being a collector road, but I cannot understand it from an engineering perspective, being an arterial on a gated community.
Right. But
Never
basically,
heard of
We are
such a
not
thing.
gated.
Okay, so
Here-
for our next meeting, can you give us that also?
here, well, that's one of the ways I think we should take a look at this, because that would take care of what Doug was talking about, because we're still using the trip generation. That's the factor.
And
That's a good
and
thing.
that's a good number.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we can take a look and get those two budgets, put them together and say, here's what it is on a per unit basis, then we'll know at that point.
We'll have more data to make a decision.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to give us 2 what-ifs at the next meeting.
Well, I can give you one of the what ifs. I can give you one of the what ifs today. And that is if we separate landscaping.
Well, okay.
And that'll
Do
take
you
care of
have it
one
on
of them.
paper?
Of course I do. Go past it. There we go. Whoop.
One too many?
Yeah. Oh, that's at Pelican
So
Preserve.
where are you going to throw it if you separate it into admin?
What,
No, make its
no,
own
the
size.
landscaping? Yeah, this is
Will it be
the,
stand on its own as its own separate deal?
Yeah, that's what
yeah,
we want.
it would stand on its
It's a
own.
one-to-one factor then?
Then everybody gets a 1.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah, because,
Well, I don't know until I look at it.
well, what I'm saying is if, I didn't make a print a copy of this one. Hang on a minute.
We may not.
I got it. Hang on.
That was not in our packet, correct?
No, that's
Okay.
correct. That is correct. But what I did was I took out, this is the.
Pelican.
This is the Pelican one?
Yeah,
Papers of
Pelican
allocation
just landscaping.
of the gateway landscaping, right?
No,
So,
of just Gateway Landscaping.
yeah, so this is an example, Mr. Geppert, where I took the landscaping out of the gateway. So it's just the roads and gateway and just the landscaping. So I separated them. Okay? So if you do it on this, is that the first one?
No, it's a second.
Go to the first one, please. Here's the roads, just the roads alone. You would only be paying $32 per unit for the roads. And then if I did the landscaping, I'll go to the landscaping one. And there, if we did it on an equal per one basis, you're going to pay 100, how much is it, 190?
$92.30.
192 plus 30 is 220 versus 114.
You've lost me in all these.
I separated the budgets, that budget, the gateway budget. This is as if you were just going to pay for the gateway side,
Okay.
okay? I took that budget and I split the landscaping one side and all the road costs on the other. Remember, we had
Okay.
2 categories. I did that. Now, if you take the roadways and so that roadway budget was $628,000. That's the road part of the roadway budget. And then I divided it by the trips. So you came up with $32.04 per unit over at Pelican Reserve, just the road. That's the street lights, that's the maintenance of the roads. Then I did the second one, go to the second one, and I took the landscaping budget, but that was split based on parcel. So it was 1 EAU per parcel.
And we're
Okay.
talking about the split from the 2.3 million. Is that what you're talking about, the
Yeah,
600?
split into
Okay.
2.3 million.
Yeah.
233 divided again into two
Okay.
components.
And then I divided it by all the parcels equally, because that would be the way to do the landscaping, other than how you're gonna do landscaping, trip generation.
Where is the Pelican landscaping budget in this?
This is, I'm just giving you an idea right now, because
Common area.
I haven't done the other part of that yet. What I've done, this is strictly,
The total, the overall.
this
Yeah,
is,
I'm pedaling
no,
as
no,
fast
no,
as I
no.
can, but I'm not keeping.
Time
up.
out, time out, time out, time out. This is just the gateway portion. Remember the first analysis I did?
Okay.
It said it was $114 per unit. Remember that? It said 114 based on trip generation. That would be your $500,000 portion that came over to Pelican. Does that make sense? I mean,
Yeah.
So what is,
Okay, could we get copies of this,
Yeah.
please?
oh, those last two
Am I the only
slides?
one that's missing
Yeah.
this?
Because they were not included.
Pelican pays $1 million a year for landscaping. I don't know what you pay over here. If you put those two things together and divide it. Is that what we're saying?
No,
Okay.
Pelican
That's
is,
where I'm getting confused. I've got a disconnect.
Pelican is, your inside the gate or your Pelican budget is not included in this number.
Because it's all O2.
This is strictly, remember originally, we said, okay, now Pelican Preserve is going to share whatever the benefit is overall of the gateway side of the budget, the common roads over here. So that was the 2 point,
And if we do that, it comes to $32.
no, if you do that, it comes to $114. Remember that number, the 114?
Where's that?
It's-
Too many charts.
Which slide,
No, it's not that one.
before or after?
No, it's, keep going down.
Down, other way?
Yep. Slow.
There.
There, it's
Okay.
right there. So what I did is I took the Pelican Preserve allocation of the gateway roads. So that
It's
was
better
the,
to keep it as it is.
so remember when we added
Not
up those
separate,
four and it-
separate,
13%.
You pay more.
yeah,
You pay a lot more.
you pay a lot more if we separate
Yeah,
the
you don't wanna
budgets. That's the
separate it.
point.
Because everybody is treated as a one, whereas if you're doing it on trip generation, you're at the percentage of it.
Any numbers, okay. I can't follow it, but I'd like to, and I'll be
Well,
okay.
to be honest with you, it's like $100 less per unit if you keep them together. Because your trip generation,
But when you're saying keeping them together, that's the outside the gate.
that's the
coming over.
gateway side, correct?
Gateway and Pelican together.
No,
Too many
no,
balls in the air, I can't.
All right,
keep them.
You
then-
lost the advantage of your
If we have,
4.3
this,
trip generation, yeah.
That's what you did. You lost the advantage of the trip generation.
Which you'll get a
then if
discount.
we go to the what if number 3, which is what Ed was talking about, defining the arterials from the community.
That would be the one I would bring
Road.
next time, right? Because we still have to do those
Can you bring
calculations.
that to
Yeah,
us next?
Yeah,
time?
that's,
And you're
that's,
gonna want estimated cost of those from me?
well, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna, no,
That's going to be the hard one.
no, 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 no.
I want to be clear with it.
Cancel Laura's vacation.
I will get the arterial road measurement from the engineer, which is where most of your landscaping is. Right? And I will do that.
But
And-
budget portion, because you're tying it to the budget. So you're gonna be, just like you did with the flowways, you're gonna say how much is the maintenance of these specific items.
Correct. And if you look inside in Pelican, you're inside of Pelican right now, where is most of your landscaping? It's on the arterials, right? So.
All of it is.
Bingo. So I'm going to take that budget that I have here and divide it by the road miles of arterial that you have. So I know what a road mile is there. I'm going to do the same for Gateway. Then we will combine them and we will figure out, and then we'll do it on the trip generation basis.
I was really with you until you threw in the trip generation. Okay.
You're at 4.4 or 4.3.
That is heading toward a compromise.
Yeah.
That's heading toward a compromise.
Absolutely.
And that eliminates that issue of trying to pick a percentage and pick a reason for the percentage.
Right.
At least that has something
The
that
reason.
might hold water.
Well, and we have basis for it because it's an arterial. We have those roads and we can use that number. And then we can use the number over here and use the trip generation.
You can ratio the road budget by the miles of non-arterial versus arterial.
Right,
If you
and
wanna
that's
see-
the next measurement that I need to
We
do.
complain about not being able to do transcripts.
No
and
minutes,
stuff.
no minutes.
No minutes, so yeah.
But regardless, all of the roadways are, regardless if they're defined as arterial or collector or local, They are still owned by the district, and we
Correct.
still have responsibilities to maintain those.
That's
Okay.
correct.
But in the maintenance of that, we're really talking the roadway, not the landscape.
We're talking about allocation of operation and maintenance costs, period. Not
Of the
about
road,
how it's done or any of that other stuff. It's allocation of costs.
So
Of the
you're
road.
good with the direction
Not the
from
plans.
us to
Yeah,
come
oh, yeah,
back?
yeah, I know what I
Okay, so
need
we're
to
good?
do now. I mean, thanks for
good, I'll
clarifying
call you
that.
and you can explain to me.
Another hour.
So,
I think that makes more sense of heading to a compromise on this issue than anything we've said
Yeah.
so far.
Yeah, I agree.
so from what I heard is we all agree to continue to maintain tree line, we just don't know what pot. That's what I heard.
I think we've all
Well, I
agreed
think-
not
I
to
think
change.
when we
anything.
get Bob to understand it, I think the
Continue.
offer I'm making is advantageous. His issue is the control of what the work is going to be done.
See,
I'm just saying that what the work is done, the cost is shared cost.
We're just from
I'm
a,
not arguing about what you do or how you do it. I'm just saying the cost that you incur is shared cost.
I
No,
don't,
I have not agreed to that. I want to see the numbers.
it's.
but from
it's-
our perspective, we are to include it moving forward. What pot will be determined at a future date. That's
What
what,
are we
that's
including, Chelsea?
tree line, the maintenance of tree line.
Well, it's always been maintained.
I
don't
know,
think
but
that's
we're
an
gonna
issue.
have to, go get an interlocal agreement to make sure that we codify it.
Yeah, so if it's within,
Well, if we, excuse me, we don't change anything, why do we need it interlocal?
Just like we had to do all of your landscape maintenance easements, we need to make this right,
to codify it.
to codify.
But
Do I need that?
Yeah, and I think that.
Yeah, it was enough. All right.
That's why we put you over the.
There you go. And
President,
Russ, did you have anything else for the roadway before you work on that and get
look
it?
happy.
well, and I think.
I'm okay.
Bold,
but
that's why we do this. I mean, that's why we do this, sir.
If, hold on, Carol.
Well, wait, yeah, I'll get to it in just a minute.
Russ, go ahead, finish.
I was just going to say, Mr. Gephardt, what will happen is the maintenance will stay the same, whether that pot gets put into the Pelican Preserve or the Gateway GF001 won't matter because it's going to be spread among everybody.
May not matter to you.
Well,
but
no,
it might
no,
matter to me.
let me finish. It'll
thought
still
you
be
were
at the level that you want it to be. It's
See,
just spread among
So
everybody.
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
I
it'll
was
be,
thinking within that, like allow the gateway to take the burden of the financial side and you still would have control.
well, you'll
We
still
will
have
have
control,
no problem giving you all of the financial.
but
But
the point being is, it's going to be based on the trip generation ultimately. So the Gateway side will have so many trips, you'll have so many trips, and that cost, whatever that cost is, to maintain it at your level, will be allocated based on trip generation. So it works, especially if we do
Okay,
the
okay,
arterial
I'll-
roads inside.
Okay, and particularly if we take into consideration Mr. Banks's, the item he threw out there where a Pelican person may not ever sit on Gateway Boulevard and a Gateway person may never sit on Tree Line.
And that's what we're
We
doing.
factor all that in there.
That's all
also.
being factored into this,
Okay,
which like Mr. Tinkle had said.
we all like that idea.
It
It's not
all-
called interconnectivity, but it might yield a similar result.
But what is happening is because now we're spreading among the trip generation inside both of them we're putting together, which seems to be a very good compromise for that. And that accounts for that.
I'll see how it ends up, okay?
Well,
That's definitely in your interest.
let's see how it looks.
And so just to confirm, because I want clear direction for us, we are not going to silo out landscaping as its own silo.
Oh, no.
I wouldn't right now.
No,
Just
he
leave it
said
as
he
a
was
part
going
of
We're
the
going to
road.
keep
Not
it as,
right now,
He was, but he was going to give us the numbers if we did, right?
I did.
but we can always
can-
come back to it
yes,
at some point if we do decide we
It
want to
wasn't the
silo
whole
it out.
pack, it
But
was
as of
enough
right
for the
now,
burden.
no.
okay.
Yeah, and the point being is it's not beneficial because of your trip generation number versus the other side.
Don't.
Okay.
Obviously, I like everything to be beneficial, but I really want to understand it.
I'll wait and see Russ's numbers
I understand.
and then determine.
I understand.
Okay.
Did we answer all of your questions up here, Russ?
Let me see, hang on a minute. What about, well, number two is, we're doing that now. We're doing number two by including the arterial roads inside,
Oh.
and that budget.
Yes. so-
Number two.
Carol,
We answered-
can you
Carol.
please just, if you'd like
Let
to
me-
speak, I'll allow you, but I'll ask you to stand up. But Tony has a
Just I think for clarification, I think we need to double check whether or not internal road network and the roads in Pelican Reserve are in fact arterials under the City of Fort Myers comprehensive plan that identifies the arterials, principal arterials, minor arterials, collectors. I think that's important.
Can you do that, or that would
Yeah,
be a
we'll
Russ?
run with Russ. I can do that.
What are you saying? You've already checked it?
Well, I'm looking at the future land use map and they identify the arterials, but I just want to double check it. I just want to take the
The
time.
engineer, we'll have the engineer double check that.
And we're
They
talking,
may not be considered arterials on the, because
Flume,
if you look in the definition in the City of Fort Myers codes, I'm quickly looking it up and caveat. It says as defined and described in the comprehensive plan. You go to the comprehensive plan, then it does not appear. Just my really quick look here, that the last amended through 2019, the transportation element of future land use is not an arterial within Pelican Reserve.
what does it say?
It doesn't identify them.
all right,
Then you default back to the
we will
DRI.
follow,
So
we'll follow
follow
up.
up with that, because we won't have an answer now,
So
so
you're having
there's.
this done tomorrow?
No.
Let's
Okay.
do, Russ, let's,
I've got to do my other one.
Russ, let's do
Jeez.
this. Whether or not, I might come to wish I'd never said this, whether or not
don't.
they are arterials,
Mhm.
do the calculation for the roads that
As
we
though they are.
believe
Because we
they're
could- we could
arterials.
get that
Okay,
decision and-
let's
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, that makes sense, because then we're not doing the neighborhood roads, we're just
Yeah.
doing.
Logically, they are arterial.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
from a
All right.
logical
All right,
perspective, that
good.
makes sense.
All right,
And I'm good with that. So that answers the second question. The third one, should Stony Brook roads be treated the same way? But see, they're not, they don't have an arterial that goes everywhere, and they do
they have
already
one
pay
main,
They
they
do.
have one main road.
Yeah.
one main
they
road,
have
and
one
then it
main
goes,
road.
Pebblebrook
All the way around?
Boulevard.
is that the only road?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, it's
The
a
main.
street, it's a street network that's internal only to that development.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So maybe,
Pebblebrook Boulevard.
do we include
Pebblebrook
that?
Boulevard
Pebblebrook.
from the main gate all the way back to
The
that
viewers.
very last road
Yes,
would be
Which is
in
everywhere.
that
Would be like
same
yes.
consideration,
vein.
would be
Yeah.
that same deal.
And for the record, Lee County has an administrative code where they define the category of roads.
Well, I've got a map of the arterials in Gateway, and unfortunately, there's only two,
Okay.
and that's
And it's
that's
not a
Gateway
gateway
and
grade.
Griffin,
Well-
it's none of those.
There is another point that you had made, this
Doesn't
the
need
2-lane
definition.
versus 4-lane, because the ones that we're determining it within Pelican Preserve are 4-lane, right?
Correct.
Is that the,
Okay,
that's what we're determining?
Well, but
So that
past
could
the
be-
bridge, it's 2 lane. Pelican Reserve Boulevard does have a component that narrows down to 2 lane.
we'll include Stony Brook, Pebblebrook Boulevard as well as part of that calculation.
Okay.
And then, did the last one get answered?
Should the properties outside of Pelican Reserve be included with GFO
We'll
2
de-
or
we'll decide that
GFO 1?
next
That can be decided later.
Okay.
What you're talking, C5
Yeah,
That area.
C5, yeah,
Commercial.
It's also
and
the-
commercial.
and
And the
commercial.
commercials.
Okay.
Thank you, Russ.
Did we accomplish? Thank you.
Yes.
That's why we do this.
Well, you're going to come back to us.
Well, the nice thing is you do it now so that you can explain to the people why you did what you did.
Yeah, oh, yeah, exactly. I got that part, just the time frame. We'll get there.
There's no problem with the time. We can push it.
Do you guys want a 5-minute break, or you just want to?
Roll
Well, I think we just took it.
We
But
all
I
took,
think Maybe Carol Brocky would like to say something also?
Under the workshop, or under the comments of the meeting?
Yes.
Are you,
That's, I just need to know for what that she wants to speak of.
I need a,
That's
do you
not,
have your sheet?
okay, just,
Thank you. Did you write, you didn't write what it was about?
roads.
because they won't be included on the workshop minutes, that's what I'm trying to say. If they speak on the
We don't
minutes,
have a workshop. This is a regular meeting.
no, this is the part of the workshop.
I didn't
It
think
is
so.
not. We did not have a workshop at the last meeting.
Oh, we
This
didn't,
was
okay.
separated out, yeah.
You were sick.
Yeah.
If
Just-
you would
That
come to
conference.
us,
You were
You were
sick.
sick.
Thank you, Bob. Next chat I'm gonna get you is like closer to the end of the door.
Okay,
Put it under public comment if you want to.
Yes.
whatever you want.
Say your name.
Okay. Go ahead. Carol Brocky, Pelican Reserve. My main question is, what I heard today was that Pelican needs to pay for gateway roads. I mean, all of Pelican roads are public roads. They are all owned by the district. And therefore, if we pay for gateway, roads. Gateway needs to pay for Pelican roads.
Well, then I'll just quickly beat all of my roads in Gateway Greens if you do that. And then you can pay for mine. That's not right.
But Ed, your roads in your neighborhood are private
I
roads.
don't care. I'll quickly deed them to avoid $1 million in expenditure.
But, what you expect of us, it's not fair that we can't expect from you. And our roads are all public roads, and they're all owned by Gateway. And they are part of one Gateway. This is what we keep hearing. We want to be one Gateway. So it has to be fair.
Then all the Pelicans or Stony Brooks would be the same way.
But we're looking at it
And
that
then
direction.
you want everybody in Gateway's going to do the same thing. That dog ain't going to hunt. I can just tell you that.
Well,
right now.
I'm sharing what
I understand what you're
people need to
saying.
hear,
Yeah.
and people need to understand that when you expect something of us, we expect something from you, and it has to be fair. That's it.
Thank you, Carol.
Okay, I need to leave this meeting at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
That doesn't mean you have to stop the
So
meeting,
what,
but I need to leave at
What,
5
we only have,
o'clock.
what,
I
one
just
other
want to let you
agenda
know.
item.
we just have a couple of agenda items.
So for the 11B, I never received an updated TA from Tetra Tech.
You what?
I never received an updated TA from Tetra Tech.
For the
Construction
inspection,
management.
because we had 6 ponds that are now down to 2, but
Yep.
we got 4 out for bid right now.
Yep.
What's the timeline for the 4 that are out to come back in?
I can get back to you.
I was going to say,
They
just,
went out
they were in
today.
the paper today.
They went out today.
So if they're going to be back within the next 2 weeks, just wait till the 5th and then we will know what we
No,
have.
they have to be out on the street for 30 days.
Okay.
So it'll be in January. So if the new TA will come to you. If I don't get it by tomorrow, it'll be on your January 2nd meeting. And I did follow up
Yeah,
twice with them
Yeah,
asking
because
for it.
we're just going to turn around and come back and do the same thing again in January if we go with good bids.
So if you can table it to January 2nd.
Okay.
We need a motion to that.
Yes.
I'll make a motion, we table 11B to the January meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And it's the first meeting in January, correct?
Yes,
Second.
yes.
Okay, 11C.
Here comes the fun. Who's making the presentation here?
So I guess, just going back to the last meeting, so we just needed an answer from Pedro, right? I guess, so what is the answer? We'll start with that.
Sorry, I'm trying to get to that thing. You can only, what we've borrowed, you can only use up to the 3.62. And that if you move money, you can move money within that admin category, but if you choose to have additional borrowings or to change how it's assessed, you have to take out a new supplemental trust indenture.
Okay.
Okay,
and
what's that mean?
You have to borrow
time-wise.
more.
That means we would look at the master trust indenture, the $55 million validation, and we would look at that admin category and that admin building cost. And if you wanted to take out additional funding to pay for the cost,
Shortfall.
you would have to do a whole nother supplemental trust indenture and go through the public hearing process,
Engineers report.
engineer's report.
But does the 55 still stay 55 and you're just shaking numbers up internally?
Within the admin category, yes.
Okay, so it can be done.
Yes.
What's the timeline? That's the
Well,
critical.
wait a minute, what else is in the admin category?
The
In
FPL.
other words, from the
No,
admin
that was in
category,
roadways.
where are you thinking you're going to take this money from?
I'd have to pull up the master engineer's report.
So you need what? The difference between 6.9 and
3.6.
3.6? 6.9 and 3.6? Well, got cash though.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you wanted to borrow additional money,
But
that is an
but that is,
alternative.
that's an option, but it's not. Okay.
Yes. We have the cash flow, other than a 5-year bank loan for the enterprise fund, to pay for the admin building.
So do we don't need to go back then to do what you just described?
not for the admin building.
Okay, well then,
I prefer not.
if we don't need to go back to the admin building, then we don't have an issue on the admin building.
Yes.
So the only issue we have is what was introduced was this outside deal with leasing a piece of property. So now it's down to truly a comparison of leasing versus building, correct? There's nothing, Tony, is that correct? There's nothing that stands in the way of right now, if we would decide to go ahead, straight ahead with the building of the building.
We're talking the admin building
The admin
separately than the
building.
parks and,
Keep the park separate, that's a whole different issue. If we wanted to go ahead right now with the admin building, we could do it, and there's nothing that stands in our way to do it.
I guess the question is, as far as the amount of monies and where they're available, I think Chelsea's been working more with Stephen on, Bloom on that. I've not really gotten into the weeds on the sources of the funds
For the admin building?
for the admin building.
Again, we have the cash flow to pay for Pelican's 14%, general funds 27%. The only deficit would be the 59% for the enterprise fund, which we would need to take out a 5-year bank loan at it's about a 5%
Okay,
interest
but
rate.
the issue we started out with, you were talking about something that we have to go back and to redo these calculations. That's not applicable to the admin building.
Correct.
So
No.
then there is nothing then that stands in the way of the admin building. That's my question.
From
No.
a financial standpoint, I don't believe so, but then additionally, there's a discussion about whether we can borrow or utilize some connection fees, utility connection fees, to help pay for some of the capital costs of that building or the utility.
That's utility
Building.
side. That doesn't impact the bond.
No, that's correct.
Okay.
That's separate and apart from
A
the
separate
bond.
issue.
And we're working with Tony Hairston of Raftellus to come up with that, meeting the dual rational nexus test to be able to use those funds because of the increased demands on the system over the last X number of years, which result in additional space requirements to accommodate the staff necessary to operate the system. It's a dual rational
Okay,
nexus.
so then the only issue.
Correct,
we-
Chelsea, so we have the money, basically.
Yes,
the
With the
on-
5-year, with the borrowing.
with the borrowing, yes.
Okay, that impacts basically the enterprise fund.
Yes.
Okay, so if we're there, then the only issue we have is to get off the table to be able to figure out where we're going is, are we going to look at this lease or are we going to stick with the admin building?
Madam Chair, just one other caveat.
Yeah.
Chelsea, from the standpoint of the 5-year borrowing, do we have a term sheet yet? A written term sheet from the lender?
Stephen Bloom has a term sheet.
Okay. When will the board see that?
Depends on if they want to move forward with the financing through that, and if they do, then it'll come back at the next board meeting.
Okay.
That's
Thank you.
just, that's, all that is a 5-year P&I issue. That's all it is.
But I just want
And
to make sure the board's aware of all the details, whatever the upfront fees are, the attorney's fee, those kind of costs that are part of that.
What I was worried about is that if we go to, what we're talking about, basically $2 million, as I recall, 1.6, 1.2, 2.0, something like that.
1.6 for the delta, the shortfall for
The
the enterprise.
shortfall for the utility.
A little over 1.6.
So if we take 1.6 divided by 5, add in the interest, do we have a bond reserve on that, 25%?
I don't know if they would have capitalized interest on those 5 years. Usually they,
I
I
haven't.
don't know. You have to look at the term sheet.
Yeah, we'd have to look at the term
Because,
sheet.
well, I just want to make sure the Raftellus understands that instead of having a 20-year financing deal, we're going to be dealing with a 5-year, and for 5 years, that's going to whack our rates.
Yes. I went over it for
Okay.
an hour
Just
today with
make sure
Tony.
everybody understands.
Tony
We're
Hairston.
Tony Harrison,
Thank you.
probably you at some point in an hour.
Well, then
What does
I-
that mean, rack our rates?
Then it sounds like to me, then, all we need to do is try to figure out what impact this West Links rental has on it, because I've never seen such this analysis we got today in the deal.
What's the rack our rates?
I mean, this is the most confusing thing I've ever seen in my life. We don't need to break this down to Gateway and Pelican and utility. It's building versus rental, period.
That's what I thought.
And this is just making this
Ed.
absolute a nightmare. What I read is that
Anywhere
just
here
based
in
on the
Gates.
way Laura did do it, not checking or challenging the numbers, it shows that at 22 years, we're basically at break even without counting equity.
Yes.
And if we would take it for the next 10 years, it's going to flip flop to be very advantageous to the building because we're not paying P&I anymore. And at the end of the period, we have equity. So my thing of looking at this is that while this is nice, I just don't see any sense of pursuing this lease any further.
When you said rack our rates, what did you mean?
I'm sorry.
You used the phrase early on before you got into the third tirade. Rack our rates. What were you talking?
Well, when we did the original calculation back 6 months, 8 months ago,
if I can-
Raftellus was
Let
basing
me-
it based on an assumption that we could use connection fee money.
No, not totally.
We're
So
talking- And we're talking utility, water and sewer
Yeah.
rates, fees and charges.
basically, to summarize, we had, just like Pelican did, just like the general fund, we under budgeted for what the actual cost came in. And our rates, we had planned on taking $700,000 out of the utility reserves and then rebuilding that over the 4 years. So we have a bigger shortfall. And so through some strategic moves, our rates will cover it for sure for the first year, maybe year 2. We'll have to look and either reprioritize some of our capital projects for the enterprise fund and delay those, or maybe get grant monies. But we are covered with regards to doing a short-term bank loan, and that is what was recommended by our rate consultant.
Okay,
But the base
If-
price, oh, I'm sorry, the price is still, it went from 3.6 to 5 million to what we're looking at now is this 8 million, right?
No, 6.9 million, about ballpark is what the number is for the
Oh,
building.
okay, 7
Well,
million.
and you know there's gonna be ad orders, so just 7 million. Okay, if we did the lease, just like what you're discussing with with building, does utilities pay 59% of the lease amount every year? Does Pelican pay 14% of the lease amount every year? Does Gateway pay
27,
difference?
Yep.
Is every year? Is it the same percentage? Is it the same places of paying if you lease?
Versus
No, it's
build.
only those 59, 14, 27 until the next analysis. It could
Excuse-
change.
Okay,
It
okay.
could change.
But my point is, you don't just take the whole lease amount and throw it into administration
So the difference
and
is, yes,
pay
so,
it that way. You've got to pay it from the departments that are going to be housed there, just like you would in the other building, correct?
so the biggest difference between the two is the lease would come out of your operations and maintenance budget every year. And that is determined by the assessment methodology. So right now it's 59, 14, 27.
Right.
With the capital construction, that has been 59, 14, 27 as well. So as we're going through the O&M assessment methodology, if you change that percentage, then every year when we do our budget, those
change.
percentages
Change.
would reflect that change.
Okay. I think the point I'm trying to make is, if you look at, and I'm just going to use today's numbers, 59% of 280 some odd thousand is a whole lot less than what principal and interest and all those other things are going to be. And we don't have an answer back about whether we could have a right of first refusal or any of the other things that might happen. I mean, I understand that this is a gentleman who wants to use this property as investment property and gain the benefits from it. I understand that. But at some point, things change in people's lives. People die, people move on, people get divorced, and the wife gets the building instead of him, or whatever. Lots of things happen in life. And if you're looking at a 20-year period with a lease and whatever, you're going to pay a whole lot less every year than you are if you spend this $7 million.
Not if you look at it in 20 years.
Not if you look at past long-term.
If utilities has to pay their share, Pelican has to pay their share, it's a whole lot less than it is in principal and interest and everything else.
Well, the numbers that Laura, while I don't agree the way she put them together, I agree with what their totals are. And the deal is that at 22 years is break even. After that, it's lopsided as hell to have owned your own building. Really lopsided. And in fact, any of these other years you could take at any time and say you still have equity in your building. It just makes no sense to be leasing this with the unknowns of it at the end of 10 years, in which we could get a lease with maybe 2 5-year supplements. We still are trusting that this guy doesn't change his mind. I mean, it's that simple. He could up and say, I want to sell this building. I got an offer that I can't refuse. Bye.
And if we
And then
had-
we're stuck.
And if we had a right of first refusal,
But he wasn't willing, didn't you?
I asked, I never received an answer on that.
right,
So that's, my
It's
thing
not-
is
we
that the
don't have
numbers
an
are
answer
just,
to that.
Because
the
when we
numbers are.
talked, she was, I was the last one there. It was pretty clear to me that it was, this is what we offer. I was even surprised at the letter of intent that we got today.
And the letter, those numbers that we sent out yesterday do not reflect the letter of intent that I received late last night.
I looked at that didn't have much to do with it. Didn't change it that much.
It made it $18.50 a square foot for the first 5 years. Whereas the first offer, we had at least a 10-year rates on it.
Yeah, so,
And then-
but
and-
again,
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think of the cost. Like, I feel like unanimously, we have, and I have never speak on behalf of all of us, but we have said over and over the years that we are in the position that we are because previous board did not think on the future. They thought very short term, very, and we all agreed with that. And then here we are on the position that we can do the same thing and let the people 10 years down the road figure it out, because that's what they did to us. I mean, I've been here since '06. So, or we can make the change. To me, when it came to the value and the dollar that we had no equity, that spoke really high with me. And the fact that I don't want to leave the residents of Gateway, not just the ones that are here, but the ones that are coming to here with the burden of trying to figure it out, because it's not going to get cheaper. If there was
but Flavia, one of the things you said early on was that there, in the new building, there isn't a whole lot of room for expansion. You even mentioned it, that there was only maybe 2 offices that wouldn't be occupied right away. So if down the road, if 10 years from now, you need a bigger building, you're gonna have to add on or
well, we
do
have
something
we
else
have
over
equity with
there.
that building. That's a different story. We
Yeah.
have equity that we have
You're gonna
money.
have plenty of space over there, plenty of space.
Well, we have way too much
You
space.
can grow into it, all kinds
But
of
then we're
ways.
going on with if he allows us to, like, he wasn't even willing to do a 20-year lease. It's 10-year. And I asked that question. It was 10 years, 5 and 5, not even 10. And he was really adamant about it. I just don't want to put the residents of Gateway in the same position that we were 4 years ago, 8 years ago, and 12 years ago. Because
And if you
It's
had a
too
building
risky.
and somebody was interested in it, wouldn't you give them the highest price you possibly could?
our people in this community expected a 4,700 square foot building 2 years ago. We morphed it to a 9,100 square foot building. I don't even want to go out and try to explain to
I
them
mean, that is-
why I'm renting a 15,000 square foot building. It makes no sense.
Okay, Ed, to your point, when we first presented this, it was 2.5 million. I was fully on board.
I'm sorry.
What, it was, I'm not speaking clearly. When we started this discussion, it was 2.5 million. It got to 3.6. I was still behind it. Then the bids came in at 5.5 or something. And now we rebid and now we're pushing 7-8 million.
No, that's not true.
Well, tell me what I said wrong.
It was 3.6 million, which was inclusive of the $800,000 we were going to pay for the land. We then found out that we could come up here and we saved the $800,000 land cost.
So it's back to 3.6.
I'm sorry.
So it's back to 3.6.
Well, 3.6 is what we had.
That's what
And
we
then we
said.
started going on and the thing morphed. And all of a sudden, we have a building that's 9,100 square feet. It is what it is. The issue is the construction cost of the building is 5.7. The soft costs and contingencies take it to the 6.9.
You use the
But you
phrase
have
all
that
the
with every
time,
building.
all costs. You were always saying, what are all the costs? Put in the operating costs, put in all this. I'm still okay at the 5.5. If we can't afford a 9,100 square foot building, let's cut it. But I can't support a $7 million building. I will not support that.
I just,
Let's cut the building
I
size.
don't see any way in the world without spending a hell of a lot of money to cut the building size. I mean,
Well, it's going to cost us a hell of a lot of money to build the
See how
building.
you're going to do it.
Well,
It'll cost a lot of money.
cut the building and come back with a much lower number, and I will support it.
If I had an easy way of doing that, Bob, I would agree with you.
Well,
But I
you
just
know,
don't-
I'm not in favor of cutting the
Yeah,
building. It
building-
doesn't meet our needs. Cutting the building doesn't meet our needs.
I'm sorry, Doug.
He said the rented building does not meet our needs.
Cutting the building size
Cutting,
doesn't meet our needs.
I agree with that.
Well, so where are we at right
And
now?
I think that the bigger thing we need to look at is what is the impact to the residents? The 5.5, and then we've got the total, there's O&M and other things that we're calculating in. What is the impact to the residents? How much is it going to cost a resident, each year for the next 20 years? And do we think that amount is reasonable against the needs of the district? And that amount is, what is it, less than $100, Ed?
That's ballpark where we're at, $100.
Yeah. $100.
So we need to decide, we need a motion either to go ahead and move forward with the rental, or the motion to go ahead and move forward with building the building. That's what.
Yeah, I make a motion, we go ahead with,
I tried to make the lease work, and I was looking at long term. To me, it doesn't make sense. The loss in equity and the unknown, to me, long term doesn't make sense. I really was trying to make the short term work. 5 years, delay the building, give us time to look at maybe the cost will go down, but that's not going to happen. The cost, if we delay building the building, the cost will not go down. And at the end of the day, after the 5 years, if we leased, we would end up spending more to build the building, which would put us in a worse position. I have really tried to figure out a way to lease because I like the building. It's way bigger than what we need.
I like the building.
So we can get into it quick, but when I look at the numbers, even for a 3-year or 5-year solution, knowing that that's not a permanent solution, just the numbers just do not make sense. And I really tried for it to make sense, and it just doesn't, in my opinion.
So Doug, in your opinion, you wouldn't support a smaller building? Say we didn't have the board.
No, it doesn't make sense. No, Bob, it doesn't make sense because we as a district, we're not getting smaller, we're getting bigger. And we're considering a 1,500 square feet building with the lease, which is way more than we need. And so we're looking at a 9,000 square foot building. To me, it's adequate. It's adequate for our needs.
Well, I never thought we'd take the whole 15,000. I thought we were going to try and.
No, there is no part and parcel of it. No,
Okay, so we have a motion.
take it or leave it.
Wait. Is that true?
What?
They will not allow us to sublease?
I didn't get an answer on that.
She didn't get an answer on that.
Well, I asked the
You're
lady.
making an assumption.
No, I get an answer for no for everything.
We'll have someone nicer answer.
We are not in that business to be leasing. That has got risk
Oh, my
written
God.
all over it. If we don't get it leased and subleased out, we're up the creek without a paddle.
No.
Really up the
But
creek.
it still doesn't matter. Even the sublease, it
But the
still
100 square.
doesn't matter because the cost of the building
Doug, he's
will
talking.
continue to go up. Oh, I'm sorry.
Anyway,
Okay.
Go ahead, Doug, say it now.
No, what I was saying is even if we sublease, it still doesn't solve the problem of the building, the permanent building. That price is still going to go up. So even if we sublease and we save a little bit, it still doesn't offset the total cost of the new building, which we will need to build a building. There's just the risk and the equity piece is just it doesn't make sense with that lease building. And I'm not a big fan of it being connected to another building. There's a lot of things. So this is just going to come down to an individual vote and what we think is as individual and collectively as the board, what is the right thing to do based on the impact to the residents and the benefit to the community.
I'm sorry. The letter of intent did say that we could sublease.
yeah, it says it.
We can sublease?
It says yeah, it says sublease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got it late last night.
The one that we got this
Yeah, you
morning.
can sublease.
Yeah,
The question
that I
is,
sent
can
you,
you
I
do
forwarded
it?
to you guys this morning. Yeah.
Okay, so we could sublease if, okay, that's all I want to know. Well, the last meeting, we talked about another 3.6 million, I believe, for ponds for the coming year. We've got this rate, Raftelis change, or what's the meter thing coming?
Meter replacement.
Meter
project.
replacement. I mean, that's going to be millions more dollars. We've got a lot of things we're spending money on. They're not getting, the ponds are not going to go away. That's going to keep growing on us. Where do we ever cut? This isn't optional. We are here today. We are living today. We don't have to spend the money. Would we like to? Well, absolutely. But at a much lower cost, I would support it. Cut the building down, I would probably support that. It's just too much money. I'll be quiet.
Okay, but we do have a motion on the floor, I just.
Well, I made that, yes.
I want to give you the respect that you
I
have a
made
motion on
the
floor.
motion that we we accept the lease.
Okay,
I'll second it.
okay, so we have a motion and a second, any discussion anymore? No? I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Motion fails.
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, okay. Oppose?
Aye.
Aye.
I
I
would,
did. But Doug, are you opposed or?
I'm opposed to the lease, yeah.
I would go ahead, then make motion and proceed full speed then with the awarding of contract to the base bid of OAK for the building,
Building only.
and proceed with whatever paperwork we need to do to get that project going.
And bring the contract back to the board for approval next. Is that part of the motion?
That's a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's all in favor say aye.
Discussion,
Aye.
discussion.
You wanna go-
discussion.
Hold on, we have many discussions.
The five, just so I'm clear, the 5.7 million does not include the additions for the RV, and there's also some extra costs for Tetra Tech and things. Is that
No,
true?
the 5.7 is purely the construction cost. The soft cost, we've identified somewhere around 6.8, 6.9 million. 6.8, 6.9.
That's
And
what
that
we're-
includes $175,000 of contingency.
And Madam
So
Chair.
that's what we're looking for.
Yes.
Yeah, and again, for clarification, the motion is to award the base bid to OAK. That's correct.
That's the motion, yes. And to proceed toward financing, securing financing to do so.
No, I thought we already had that behind us.
That's what we're still having
That's
to
what Chelsea.
Enterprise.
going through on the
Okay.
enterprise. Everything else appears to be clean.
Any other discussion?
No, I'd just like to know what the real cost is ever going to be. But
Open 6.9 million or less.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. No more discussion. I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Oppose?
no,
No.
Motion passes 3-2.
there's those Pelican people running up the tab over here when they don't have to pay for it.
Okay, what else?
You want to
I'm
address?
so hungry.
So we're not.
We took care
construct-
of that audio visual deal.
So we're not constructing the park. We're just doing the admin building.
That's
Well,
the only motion that we made.
That
We-
was the only
We
thing.
separated.
Yeah, yeah.
So- Well, I'll make,
Take
so
action.
is the idea to go ahead and, is it applicable to make a motion on the park?
Yes,
I see.
it is on D, it's 11D, so that's what we will
Okay.
ask.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to proceed with the second piece of the bid for, is it OAK as well?
Yes,
Yeah,
Two-
to OAK for the park addition.
second the motion.
So for clarification, the motion is to award all bid to the ultimate bid for the park, OAK construction.
Correct.
Correct. So we have a motion and I have a second on the floor, open for discussion.
Did we ever get the survey of the Pelican residents, whether they supported the park or not?
I have not gotten that out yet.
I'd like to table that motion until we have that greater input.
Is that a motion to table?
I don't know how you do
We'd
it.
have to make a
We have a
motion.
motion. We have a motion and a second.
Let's call for a vote for tabling the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion to table fails for the record.
Thank you,
Okay.
Tony.
Any other discussion?
Maybe he's calling you to give you another
Denny
property.
Grimes.
Pumpkin pie.
Oh my
You gotta get pumpkin pie.
I know what Denny Grimes.
Denny's got a deal for us.
Tell me not, don't go this route.
He's probably got another property there. I'd take the call on it.
All right, so we
Right,
have a
yeah.
motion and a second on the floor with no further discussion. I'm gonna go ahead and call the vote. All in favor say aye to award, do I have to remind you of the bid?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Okay,
you get
to
it started.
award OAK, the $2.5 million bid for the parks. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed.
Okay, so
No.
Doug, are you
Approved.
opposed or you're, if there's a delay, So you're in
No,
favor?
I was in favor, yes.
Okay.
He made the motion.
I
I'm
know,
just saying.
but- So opposed?
I'm opposed.
I'm opposed.
These
Okay,
penny
so
pinchers
three
in Pelican
zeros.
are opposed again.
All right.
Okay, so
Now we're
Ed,
gonna go to
you
audio.
once made the comment that if 51% of these people don't want this park, I'm not voting for it. And
It's
you
not-
just did.
Not going to get any better.
You just did.
Not going to get any better.
I'm just
What is not
making
going to get any better
reality.
mean?
I will
Okay.
remind you,
Audio,
Oh, I'll remind you.
audio and visual.
Let's keep moving.
The next one is the
that's
change.
included as a part of the
change-
project.
The change order for the Commons
Amazing.
Park Plan and Administration Building. This is change order 2. Let me get to that for you. It's for Tetra Tech. This does not include CEI of the park, or of the building, I'm sorry, of the building, because Holmontes is going to provide it of the building, and Tetra Tech will do the remainder. Sorry, struggling. Laura's normally the one driving
Who
here.
is this at?
That's,
What are we
That's
looking
what
at
I
right
was-
now?
'cause I thought,
I'm getting there.
Audio visual stuff for the
No,
new building.
no,
no,
that's what I
No,
thought we were going,
No,
but
that's
she's
not
saying
what we
no.
are. This is Tetra Tech's contract. I
It's a-
don't see.
It's a change order, hold on.
Well, can we do the audio and video and then do that?
For the audio,
Well, I have a tweak with the audio video.
Okay.
Do you want to go to the audio video while I'm scrolling?
Sure.
I can touch on it real quick.
well, I thought we got cleared at the last meeting that the cost on the building included the FFE. I asked the question, was that 90,000 or whatever it was included? And you said yes.
Yes.
So
No.
what-
That is a direct purchase on my budget numbers, the 6.9 million, that
Included,
included the
okay.
FFE.
That's what I meant.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yes, this
Okay.
is the
So
construction.
I don't have any issue. I just want to
The-
make sure that it's included in our cost estimate and not another 100,000.
I just want to touch on, if we're going to talk about the AV real quick. I got an email from our friend Jack Dempsey over in Pelican Preserve, made some suggestions because he has cochlear implants and trying to upgrade our system to make them compatible with those implants. I since reached out to the vendor. It's like a $50 more to make that happen. So I strongly recommend we go with the amended Harmon's audio visual quote, which is just upgrading that so it's compatible with those. It's not compatible directly with the hearing aids, but with the cellular device, which is the transmittal to the hearing aids,
Okay, Tony has it.
of course.
Yeah, my only comment was, I provided that, just,
The 50% deposit, we will do.
well,
a
it
purchase
says
order.
the deposit received by no later than December 5th.
No, we'll issue a purchase order,
Okay,
and then when they receive material, we will submit payment for receipt. I've clarified that.
and Harmon
with the vendor.
understands that?
Yes.
Okay. I
I
wanted
haven't
to
We
make-
have
We have an email from them with that.
Yeah, so
Oh,
the
Hi, Laura.
The voice,
Hi,
is-
Laura.
the
Hi,
voice.
Laura.
I've been listening the whole time.
Yeah, so the new.
I hear you
total-
guys picking on me.
I didn't say your name.
Laura, they were picking on her.
So
Yeah,
the-
no, I think that's important.
The
Yeah.
new total is $99,551 compared to,
9507,
Yeah.
99507.
yeah, audio visual. I'm trying to
Yeah,
get there.
that's the key, as long as Harmon agrees to that. So
Yes, they have.
Thank you.
So 99,551,
Okay, so you want a motion?
yes.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and make a motion to award the,
Procurement for the new,
AV to Harmon.
yes.
at the revised prices articulated by the district manager.
I'll second that motion.
I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. I just gotta clarify with Doug if it was, so it's 4-1?
Aye, I'm an aye.
Okay, so it's 4-1?
Without Laura.
You heard that, Laura?
She's,
I know, she's just not here controlling for me.
need to do it too.
See, it's a lot easier for Chelsea when she just has to sit next to me and flick her finger and I have to do all the work. So now she knows what I go through.
Ah,
All right, the next item,
Expensive head you got.
On the job training here?
yeah. The next item is the change order 2 for the Commons Park Plan Administration Building. So this is $128,000, $128,780. And this is for construction phase services for the park and the building.
Does not include resident inspection, just construction services.
This is
Or
for
does this include inspection? Because I thought they were,
construction phase services.
Occasional inspection.
Yes.
Not,
well, I thought they did not have the ability to do
No,
the inspection.
you'll have for the
Separate.
build, so they do for the site work, but not for the building. And that'll come to you at the next meeting because
So this is
Holmontes.
for everything but that.
Yes.
I'll make the motion to approve, what is this?
Change
task
order
or
2.
Change order number
Two.
2.
I'll second the
Yeah,
motion.
change order number 2.
I'll call to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No,
Nay,
Motion passes 3-2.
Doug,
I didn't hear Doug.
Doug, are you yay or nay?
Sounds like it fails, didn't it, to the sport?
Doug? What happened to him? We lose him?
He's still on.
Is he still on?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, he fell off. He just fell off.
the motion fails.
the motion fails.
Okay,
2-2.
next item.
There's nothing they have to do between now and December 5th anyway.
That's it?
For the revised agenda, for the, everything that you brought, yes, that's it.
Yeah, go ahead and do supervisor comment. I'll start with Bob.
I love all these 3-2 votes. That's all I got.
All right. Carol?
Yeah, I'm assuming that we have not hired a third person to work with Russ to develop a methodology, correct?
Correct.
Huh? Third person?
Not a second.
The second for us.
A third opinion, second, yes.
Second opinion.
I was gonna say, we
I
got
know
3
you
now?
have.
No,
You had some names, right?
we haven't hired them. I think the Pelican Reserve hired them.
But the last the board directed was for staff to go and find another one.
Correct.
And the one that we did find pulled out. Since then, we've been trying to get in contact with another one. As you know, it's limited resources in the state of Florida with PPCA hiring Fishkind. That was the one who taught pretty much all of these folks. So we are still trying to make contact with Carrie
Garland,
Garland.
who also used to work with Fishkind,
Yes.
and in fact did some work previously, I believe.
Is with Fishkind or was?
He was, I believe he was.
And
I
Russ,
think everybody was.
Russ had, I believe Russ had his contact information.
Yeah, so we've
Hey,
been
they-
unsuccessful in
they-
contacting
They were
them.
one of the few.
So
companies in
is
the
it
state.
possible that staff could talk with Mr. Fishkind and see if there is a way that he can work with Russ?
Yeah, the direction of the board.
What is being like the same thing that
The
Jones
second
was going to
source.
do? The same thing Dr. Jones was going to do?
The second source.
Somebody
I
needs
mean,
to, somebody needs to, the committee
This
over there
guy
has already
taught all
hired
these guys.
that Fishkind. That's kind of puts us in a position if they would withdraw their hiring of him, and then he would be willing to.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approach Fishkind on a contingent that he withdraws from the Pelican contract and works for us.
And he would be basically like Jones was
I don't know what Jones is, but
okay, the only thing we
Yes.
got, only thing we got then is, we need to run that by, Russ. Get his opinion on that.
Well, that's why I asked if staff could look into that. We've got a couple weeks now till our next meeting, see if it could be worked out. And
Well,
if there's some reason it can't, okay.
Well, I got the issue or the opinion talking to the Pelican Reserve people that they were wanting more out of Fishkind than just an opinion. They wanted a separate report is what I gathered
I have no idea.
from the people.
I don't know what they
Okay,
negotiated.
that-
But
that's
we
what I
wanted a
got
second
from
opinion.
Carol,
We want a second
is
opinion.
that it wasn't a second opinion, it was a second report.
Okay.
In other words, it was two different reports.
But what we wanted on the
But I
gateway
think the
side was
reality-
that
We
it
wanted a
was
second
somebody
opinion.
of cynical, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
after reviewing the report. So,
But
go ahead.
But the reality is, we want to come out of this with something. We don't want to have one report from this guy and one report from this guy, and then you fight over what's
Exactly.
in one and what's
So
in
do we,
the other.
so do we have Russ finish and then provide that to to the guy the Pelican has hired and then get his feedback to the board?
That's why I think it'd be a whole lot better if they could work together.
Well, but
And-
barring that, and I agree with you, Carl, but barring that, let's make contact with this other party.
So I just want to be clear, what I'm asking him, because what I asked of Jones was that when Russ would come up with what he is presenting to the board, I would send whatever you got in your packet to Jones or to Fishkind, what would now be Fishkind. They would review it basically and give feedback at the same time.
That's what I gathered.
With
That
possible
is a
alternative.
With either agreeing or disagreeing or coming up with alternatives to Russ's method.
Well, I specifically would like to see alternatives if available. If they're not, they're not.
Okay, so that is
Yes.
what I am asking of Fishkind. And then, so if he's acceptable to that, it's contingent upon him withdrawing from representing the community association, and then we would
Make
need a
sure
contract.
somebody, we're going against what the community told us they wanted. This is a flip-flop. I want to make sure that the people that hired him over there understand that he's not going to be doing a full report. He's going to be giving a second opinion. Which is a lot different.
So
Because
why
the
don't,
size and scope
why
of the
don't we
project
wait
is
for
going to be.
Pelican? Like, why don't you reach out to Pelican and see if they're
Yeah.
willing to do that? Let
And
me
Ed,
know.
I take exception
Yes,
to
sir.
your saying it was just an audit because I made the motion in the meeting over there that was carried, and it was going to be a second evaluation. I don't know where you came up with this. Is
I
just
met-
a
I met with
sanity
Car-
check.
I met with Carol and Tom and Faye.
Okay, that has nothing to do with my motion.
But-
My motion in the meeting was that we, the board, get a second opinion, period.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Well, then that's all we're asking him to do.
Well, but my problem is if we go to Fishkind, we're going over what they.
No,
have hired
different
him for.
issue. Fishkind does what Fishkind does, which is to make a second report. And if he can do that without a problem with Pelican Reserve, then we do it. If it would in any way compromise what he's already engaged in, then we walk away from him and we pursue the third person.
Okay, Tony.
What in Carol's perfect world, what I would like to see is where Russ comes up to something like he says, okay, I just came back from he calls up Fish. I just came back from the meeting and they want to know if they can do this over here and do that over there, but Ed says that we can't mention that word interconnectivity. Is there anything else, any other method, any other something I can, and they talk about it, well, did you think about using the ABC method?
See, that's a
instead-
second opinion.
instead of the CD?
That's a second opinion.
CD,
I don't have a problem with that.
And he said, well, then this one I would have to have arterial roads, as opposed to, blah, blah, blah. And I would like to see
Work together.
this working together
Right.
now, rather than waiting at the end and having a 3-2 vote of, somebody wants this formula and somebody wants that formula. That's not going to help
So-
us.
That's the whole idea of a second opinion, is to try to avoid that.
Okay,
So-
well, the one thing I don't
Value
want the second opinion to be is he added 2 and 2 and got 4. That's correct. That's what I don't want. I want the fact that he did 2, but I offered him 2, 2.5, 2.3 quarters.
So you're
No.
looking for a
So then you're
separate,
looking- You're looking for a separate report.
Absolutely.
So
Yes,
then we're
Tony,
back to
Tony,
then
so-
letting
so-
Pelican do their own way and.
So and then we'll
and
proceed with Carrie.
But that
Okay.
doesn't change the fact we have an obligation to get a second opinion.
Which is with Carrie. Go ahead, Tony.
My concern, I don't know how far down a path Dr. Fishkind has gone with regards to any data analysis, suggestions or approaches that he's provided to his current client, and how that would affect his ability to have and enter into a contract with the district. I don't know what was asked of him by the residents.
Tony, everything that we've done is public. So everything that Russ has put out, we've gone through, what do you call it, the stormwater management. We're now through roads. So it's on the deal. It's pretty clear what Russ's plan of action is and where he's doing. This would be something that if I was Fishkind, I'd want to be looking at as going along. And if there is something that, hey, stop the presses. There is an alternative here. I've got a solution. That is what a value engineering would do.
Again, I don't disagree with that. Again, I don't know what he was asked to do.
They
In other words-
told me, and I'm only going by what they told me, is that he is doing a totally separate, independent value engine or assessment methodology. And to me, that does exactly what I agree with Carol on, is that now all of a sudden offers the opportunity to have a report here of X and a report here of Y, and now we have to go hire somebody to pick, do we go with Z or do we go with X or do we go with Y? That's crazy.
To be clear, so you're asking me to approach Fishkind or Carol Brocky? Or, because,
Either one.
or both.
Both.
Well, Fishkind may, if I'm Fishkind and you call me up, I'm gonna say, I've got a contract already. So that's problematic for Fishkind.
I mean, what, hey,
I just need
hey,
direction.
what I was thinking about when this whole thing came up, I was only looking at it for benefit. Having, I thought it would be in Pelican's best interest to have someone evaluate benefit, not the assessment methodology. I was only looking at benefit. And if there is a perceived benefit, what would that percentage look like? And how would that impact assessment? I never really was even thinking about having somebody come in and do it a completely separate assessment methodology. To me, that doesn't make any sense.
I think you're totally right. I think maybe the committee over at Pelican did not understand or see it that way.
I'm the one that made the motion. I know what I motioned.
No, not you. I'm talking about your committee over there that, what do you call it? Carol.
PPCA.
Well, I think the Residents Alliance.
The Residents Alliance.
No,
They're the one who
well-
hired Fishkind.
It's a combination of Residents Alliance.
Yeah, but
And the
anyway, I
community
don't think they were looking at it as a second opinion.
Okay, so let me ask you, Bob, do you prefer that we go to Fishkind and ask if they're willing no longer to do a full report, but you made that motion, that's what you're trying to say, and kind of work more on what Carol was saying?
I'm kind of open, but I definitely want an independent report or a second report.
Okay, so then we'll have three, so
That's fine.
We may have, let's do both, and let's approach Fishkind, Carol, via Carol Brook, and see if they'll be willing to work with Russ. We'll take it in, so at least that we work together. And in addition, we'll still talk to the person, Carol, for a full separate report.
I don't think there'd be any harm in approaching.
Right? Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that?
You know what, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
Because
Okay.
I have no idea what.
I mean, because my point is, unless we feel like Russ's methodology, like if the Pelican folks, if they feel like they can't follow Russ's assessment methodology where it is today,
Lane's on the ground, people.
if it's directionally correct, I think where the conversation it falls back on, even from today's conversation, is benefit and percentage that should be applied to the assessment. That's when it comes down to
You hit the nail on the
brass
head.
tacks, that's what
Is the issue.
Okay.
Say
that's
that
the issue.
Benefits.
Oh, yeah.
That's the
I have
issue.
no doubt about Rush's integrity and the professionalism with which he'll do it. I just want a different perspective. That's what I was trying to.
And I don't even have a problem if they look at, Tetra Tech's benefit findings or Russ's perceived findings. I don't even think it has to be conducted blindly. I think you can even have someone say, look, this is what has been determined so far. Do you agree with this? And are we missing anything?
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doug. Okay, Carol is done. I'll go to you, Doug. You have any supervisor comments?
I guess you have.
No, I mean,
Chelsea?
There's none.
my comment is this. I understand Pelican's position on some of this spending, but I think I'm pretty proud of the fact that we have made we've approved the building and the park. Yes, it's a little more expensive than what we had originally planned, but I think it's going to be great for Gateway. But this is where we have opportunities as we continue to move forward, to look at areas to save money and cut back, and which is what we've said we are always trying to do. But things are expensive right now, and we have to do sometimes the hard things that are a little bit more expensive. So I just applaud the board. I know it's not easy, and I especially applaud Pelican, even though they voted against. I think in principle they kind of understand what we're trying to do here.
Thank you, Doug.
I did have one other question. Well, I got a note about feral pigs. Somebody in Stony Brook.
Feral pigs.
I don't, do we have a position on that?
It must be up at Stony Brook.
It came from a Stony Brook resident. But we've had him in Pelican too, and we
So-
keep telling everybody we don't do anything.
The response that I gave to them was similar to what we do with iguanas. Unless they're damaging district assets or property, we don't address them. We have in the past put traps on the FPL easement.
Still have one there.
But if if there's complaints in their community, their HOA, to contact their HOA, which I know that she did, and the HOA already replied and said that they were gonna do whatever they had to do within their private property.
Okay, I just didn't see the response to the question. I just,
Yeah, I think they emailed all the board members, and so I
Yes.
think I just replied and had Flavia on it.
I think they're frustrated with the answer and the response they got from their
The
HOA
HOA.
camp.
well, that's the same thing with our people.
Yeah, I think that's the issue.
And we
They're
generally have the
frustrated
golf
they're not
course
getting
as a
anywhere.
buffer, but the pigs
Well,
ran
they
across,
have-
the golf
They
course
have
went to the
14,
lawns.
Which is where they live.
Yeah,
That's the
Dan,
problem.
Daniel offered to address the issue if he.
Yeah, I
if-
bet he
if
did.
needed.
Well, it's interesting that where they're located is about the only habitat left for them is
Over
the
here.
old dump.
Well,
And that's gotta be where
a
they're
lot
at.
of, a lot of the construction along 82 is probably, I know like in my
Pushing them.
neighborhood, I have them in
Stirring
my
them
own-
up.
Yeah, certain, and they're moving, they're migrating.
You don't want to take?
No, I'm good. We have them, they've rooted up my yard too, so.
All right, so Ed,
Nothing.
okay, I just have two things. Liaison for next year. I know do we still want to continue with that, or we feel confident with our committees that they can maybe take a step further and start reporting to us directly at the board, either via a written report or coming into the board and speaking like how we used to do it before? Because I believe Carol, right, was taking
Carol
Parks and
was,
Rec,
Carol was
Parks and Rec.
crack, yep.
Yeah.
And then Bob handles the subcommittees. Do you handle PrAC too? I don't know if you were the designated person for PrAC from
I
the
don't
board
do anything
level.
with PrAC.
I
No.
don't think so.
I mean PPAC, I'm sorry, PPAC.
I'm perfectly willing to do it. I guess I didn't realize I had something to do.
No, well, if you want to go away from having a designated board representative attend those meetings
I would have liked the chair or somebody from them to come in and present it.
and or provide written
Or
reports
report, either
when
or.
we
Instead
provide.
of,
Yeah,
I'd agree.
Instead of the written reports that they give us now?
no, to be attached to the meeting, like, instead of like when Carol goes to the Parks and
Right.
Rec, she just comes in at the following meeting and just gives us a little report.
Right.
Instead of having her do it and have her come to the meeting, because we have.
Have the
ability
chair
to do it,
come.
Have the chair come in and do
I
it.
agree.
So have
Happy
Just
to
have an
report.
item in there
Yeah,
for
so-
committee
so
reports.
we start building that relationship.
I agree.
Okay, so then that's what
So
we're, the rest.
it would be PPAC and PrAC for you.
It's the only two that we have?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, let's see, we got this. We all, I guess, just a reminder, Bob and myself and Ed to send out that check and that note.
Say it again.
So what? Yeah.
To send the check for the oath and
Yeah,
stuff.
the
Just a
$10.
reminder, we did that?
Did you send your?
I don't know if I did or not.
Yeah, you need to send your check.
I think I
for
gave you a
$10
check.
in
Did I,
that.
did I give that to you?
No, not us. You need to handle that.
Yeah, you get the form that we got signed, the oath, you gotta send it, a check for $10 to the department. It was a strange name, department.
Bob, your signed oath of office is in your tray at the flop.
Okay, so you didn't do it.
Well, I'm gonna have to wait till next payday. It's $10.
So speaking of, do
Alright,
you
so
want to
then-
be paid
so
for this meeting?
that's how I
Oh, yeah.
have.
Flavia, do you want to be paid for this meeting?
Yeah.
I don't know where we're
At
at,
every meeting
where
they're
we at
full.
on.
She
the-
doesn't make that
When I
many,
show
she
up, when
needs
I
it.
go-
Wait a minute, where are we at on number? I thought we were over.
I have no idea where we
I
are.
thought we were over.
No, you guys are good. I think because you canceled a couple of meetings, even with the strategic planning and stuff, I'm pretty sure that you have enough to get you through the rest of this year.
Being over is okay, just being under is unacceptable.
Yeah, we'll
Can't
make
be
some
over.
meetings up.
Can't be over.
Can't be over.
I just have one additional thing. So yes, I heard you want to be paid for this meeting, so we'll make that note for Laura. Winterfest is the first Saturday,
Sixth
the
or
6th, the 7th.
Seventh.
You probably saw a sign coming in. I know Carrie, if she hasn't already reached out, I know Flavia, we need you to speak.
We could put on a sign by Pelican.
Yes.
Did we do it? I don't know. I
No,
haven't left
we-
the house in weeks.
Yeah, it'd be a very good idea. Give them something to burn in effigy.
Need my
We'll
face
put,
on it.
we'll put the variable message board out there so they can really see it. So I just want to remind you that Winterfest is coming up. The holiday lights will be illuminated, most likely this Friday after Turkey Day.
And it's gonna be over here in the soccer.
Yes. So you'll notice we've got garland up, we've got lots of holiday lights that are getting ready to be
And
turned
is
on.
staff working or they're volunteering? Because last year.
Staff is working.
Okay.
If they're here, they're working.
All right. Also, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Are you in a hurry?
Yeah. There, we left.
No, All right.
See you, Doug.
I have stuff that.
Bye,
needs-
everyone. Thanks a lot.
I think that.
Multiple
Yes.
things to be signed or
Uh,
singular?
Well, no, because I think some of them had your name, which we're gonna work on changing. That's going to December 5th. That's,
See ya. See ya.
Have a good
Thank you.
Thanksgiving.
You too. We'll see.
No, I can sign that. Well, you can sign it while you're here.
Is that what he's proposing?
I don't know what.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I'm sure, that's why. Yes, sir.
551. I know, I'm getting there.
I understand they call them pirates. I get it. Only because they, Lee County, there's funky definition of pirates, they call them